Hey there, and welcome to this series. I'm Destiny Franks, the lead instructor here at DesFix, and I'm super excited to welcome you to this series where we will be creating a modern blog application using Next.js, Supabase, and TailwindCSS. And trust me, this is just not any blog app. We are going all in with real-world features that every modern blog needs. We'll be building everything from scratch, no copying and pasting of codes here. We are talking about features like authentication, where users will be able to sign up and log in securely, CRUD operations, which will help authors create, read, update, and delete posts. Users can like posts that they enjoy. Readers can also leave comments on articles, bookmarks, and also save posts for later, and even view counters to keep track of how many people are reading each post. We also have notification features to notify users about new comments and likes, and an author dashboard so that authors will be able to manage their posts and view statistics and also analytics. And of course, everything will be backed by a real Postgres database with Supabase. We are going to cover it all step by step. The best part is we are going to understand every line of code that you write, and I'll make sure to break it down in a way that is very easy to understand with fun scenarios, diagrams, and even visual explanations using a whiteboard. Now you might be wondering, why a blog application? That's a great question. Well, a blog app is the perfect project for this course because it covers many of the core concepts and features that you will need to know when building real-world web applications and when learning Next.js, Supabase, and TailwindCSS. And you know, we are doing all this with Next.js, Supabase, and TailwindCSS, which are incredibly powerful tools that work really well together. Here is why we actually chose a blog application. Number one, it's simple yet powerful. Building a blog app is a great starting point because it's easy to understand but still gives us plenty of opportunities to add complex features. We will dive into authentication, database management systems, real-time updates, and even UI design, all from scratch, all of which are very, very essential skills for modern web development. Secondly, we chose a blog app because it teaches essential full-stack development. It touches both the front end and the back end, making it the perfect project to demonstrate how to create a complete web app. Don't worry, when we get started, you will see how Next.js handles the front end with a smooth and efficient experience, and how Supabase powers the back end with authentication, real-time updates, and also a Postgres database. It's a real-world setup that's widely used in the industry today, and that is why we chose a blog application and these tech stacks to make sure that you get the most out of this course. Blogging platforms are everywhere, from Medium to WordPress, and knowing how to build one from scratch actually shows that you can work with user authentication, CRUD operation, notifications, real-time updates, UI, and many more. These are skills that you will use whether you're working on your own personal project, or maybe you're working as a part of a team, or even just for a client. So these are why we chose a blog application. And finally, we chose a blog app because it's relatable. Everyone has, in one way or the other, visited or read a blog post before. So building a blog app gives us a concrete, relatable product to actually work on. It's also something that you can easily extend into other projects if you want. Maybe integrate it into your portfolio or do something totally different with it. So when we build this blog app, you're not just learning how to make a blog, you're learning how to build a modern web application with all the necessary tools that you need to create real-world apps, and most importantly, real-world apps that can scale. I've taught thousands of students, both online and offline, and I know that building something like this can be a huge challenge, but don't worry, by the end of this course, you not only have a fully functional blogging platform, but you also have the knowledge and confidence to build your own web apps in the future. I'm also going to be introducing you to some amazing tools from DesFix to make sure that you get the most out of this course. First up, we have the TWS, which stands for Tutorial with Step. This tool basically is the written version of this course and is going to be your best friend. With TWS, you can follow along at your own pace, bookmark sections, make notes, and revisit anything that you need help with whenever you want. It's kind of like having a personal guide that's always available to help you. Next, we'll use DesFix Coding Challenge tool. This is a really cool tool that will guide us step by step as we build this blog application. It will also give us the materials that we need, track our progress, and most importantly, it will validate our project. You'll get feedback on efficiency, clean code and creativity so that you know exactly where to improve on when something is not working as expected. And to keep your mind sharp, we'll be using Desfix Practical Q&A. This is where you get answers to all your questions in real time. It's like having a dedicated question bank to make sure that you're on the right track throughout the whole course. Finally, we have Desfix Dev Mentorship. If you run into any issue or just need some help, this mentorship program lets you connect with instructors in less than 5 minutes. Whether you're stuck on a bug or maybe you need some extra help or guidance, we are here to help you push through and keep going during your learning journey. So, are you ready? I know this might sound like a lot, but don't worry, I'm actually here to guide you through every step of the way, making sure that you understand everything and also having fun in the process. Throughout this course, we'll be building real-world skills, and by the end, you'll have your own fully functional blog application to show off to your friends. And whether you want to create your own blog or maybe work as a developer, or maybe you're just learning for fun, this course is perfect for you. So open up your code editor, grab your favorite drink, and let's get started building something amazing together. I'm actually really excited to see what you create, and I can't wait to actually take on this journey with you. So without any further ado, let's get started.
Hey friends, and welcome back to the blog app projects using Next.js, Supabase, and TailwindCSS. In this video, we are kicking things off with a full demo of the projects that you'll be building by the end of this course. This walkthrough will help you decide if this course is the right fit for you, if it's worth your time, effort, and energy. This project is powered by Next.js for the front end, Supabase for authentication and database. Also, TailwindCSS will be used for sleek and modern UI. And finally, PostgreSQL under the hood will be used to manage everything, including articles, likes, comments, bookmarks, views, notification, and many more. And also, we'll be building everything from scratch with a heavy focus on visual explanation to help you see how it all works. And this will be perfect for our visual learners. By the end, you'll have a solid real-world blog app and a deeper understanding of the entire stack that we will be using in this course. It's your all-in-one roadmap to mastering these modern tools. So let's not waste any more time. Let's dive in and see what we are building. All right, welcome back here. You can immediately see that we have our landing page here, and we have a lot of layouts here. This was done on purpose so that you'll be able to understand how grid and flexbox works in Tailwind CSS. And when you scroll down, you can see that we have our dynamic header over here that pops up from the bottom, which is a modern way of including header in your application. Now you could either use this to create a new blog post, view all blog posts, or see your comments, or basically go to the home page. And over here, you can see that we have the hot picks section, the hand-picked section, the popular section. And you could also visit one of those articles over here by either clicking on the image, the title, or maybe a button like this. There you go. I just clicked on that and we opened up the detail page for 15 things to do in Japan during your next travel. And as you can see, we have things like the like, the bookmark, the dates that this post was created, the views of the post, and how many minutes it will take us to read this post. Now, all these are very functional and interactive. If we had more blog content over here, you'll see that this will read like 2 minutes or 3 minutes, which means we are dynamically calculating what it will cost to read this blog post over here. Views also are dynamic. If you are to actually check out another blog post, you'll see that it will have a totally different views from what we currently have over here. Now, you could comment, you could like, you could bookmark. Here's our comment system down here. You can see that we currently have 3 comments from these users over here. You can see their image, you can see their name, the date when the comment was made, and the actual comment itself. You can see over here, we also count how many comments that we have. And for you to make a comment, you need to log in to write comment. And as you can see, our system detects when you are not authenticated, and it prompts you to log in to perform some other operation. For example, let's say you're trying to like. You can see it says log in to like. Even if you want to bookmark, it says log in to bookmark this article. So since our system heavily depends on authentication to perform some operations, how about we go ahead and authenticate ourselves? So I'm going to click on the login over here, and then you could either go ahead and register a new account, or you could log into your account. So let me show you how the registration works before I go ahead and log into my account, which is the administrator account. So I'm going to click on register account over here. And there you go, it opens up. So I will fill this up using this extension that is called Fig Filler. And I'm just trying to create a name over here. For the email, I'm gonna, okay, you don't even need to copy this email to log in, because I have a two-way login for this system. Firstly, if you want users to be able to log in automatically when they create an account, you can activate that. Or if you want a user to be able to go to the login page after creating an account just to test out their credentials and make sure that they remember it, you can also activate that. But for a blog application, I think it only makes sense that when a user creates an account, automatically log them in and don't take them through the extra process of going to the login page and trying to log in again. So when we come over here, all we just need to do is click on create account after filling in your informations here. If you don't fill in your informations and you click on create account, it will prompt you to fill up the field that you must have missed. So I'm going to click on create account over here, and it should create the account. See, registration successful, redirecting, and after a second it should bring us to the dashboard page. There you go. But this user don't have anything yet for the dashboard, so what I'm just going to do is go home. As you can see, this is how the dashboard looks, but don't worry, we're going to get back here and I'll show you how it all works. So let's go ahead and log out. See, our logout system works perfectly well. And now that I'm logged out, I will go ahead and log into my main account, which is my deskfix@gmail.com, and my password is testing321, and I'm going to go ahead and log in. Good, login successful, redirecting. So you can also see our login feature seems to be working perfectly well. All right, so I'm logged in and I go back to the home page. I'm going to open up this post again. There you go. Now that I'm logged in, you can see that the bookmark icon changed, and you could either go ahead and like this again. Now when I like, can you see it updates? It shows 2 likes, and also here it shows you liked this article. And now I can drop a comment. Our system now detects that we are logged in, so it can now allow us to make a comment. Let me show you the bookmark before we make a comment. Currently it's bookmarked, which means if you click on this over here, you should be able to see that I have 1 item in my bookmark. Can you see that? But then if you could go ahead and either delete this from here, so clicking on this is going to remove it from here, you see. And after you have done that, or you could either remove it from here. So it's up to you how you want to do it. So clicking on this now again, see, article bookmarked, and now it's going to be in our bookmark over here in the header. Very good. So you could either bookmark or you can unbookmark article. That's pretty cool. Now you could also drop comments. Your name is automatically pre-filled for you, and you can write your comments. This is a new test comment, and as soon as you hit this, as soon as you hit submit content, see, immediately we now have a new comment that says this is a new test comment, and it gets added to the list. Now you can also add a feature of allowing the comments to not immediately show up, so that maybe an admin can review it from the database or something before the comments go live. But then for a blog application, let's just make the comments to go live immediately, and that is why we worked on this. Okay, so now if it was another user that made this post, it will automatically get their name, their profile image, and as you can see, it's getting the dates when we made this comment. That's very good. So after that, that's pretty much it for this over here. Let me go ahead and show you how the dashboard looks. So you can come over to the dashboard overview. So here on the dashboard, you can see that we are counting how many views that this author currently have, which is the total views among or across all the posts that they have created, and also their total posts, their total likes, their total comments, and also how many unread notifications that they currently have. And now you can see that we are listing out all the posts over there, showing the post title, image, dates created, views, likes, and comments. And you can also view the post, edit the post, or maybe delete this post, as you can see. And over here also we show all the recent comments. As you can see, these are all the comments that was made. This is the new test comments. The author can see it in their dashboard and maybe moderate it if they want to do that. And also you can see the notification. If there is a new comment notification, it detects that it's a comment notification, and it shows this icon over here. And as you can see, the notification says Destiny Franks commented on your article, 15 things to do in Japan during your next travel. This is very nice. I love the way everything is over here, well structured, well detailed, and we have a very scalable code base that you could use to that you could basically convert to anything that you want. Okay, so yeah, that's it. Let me also show you how to create new posts. So clicking on this over here is going to bring us to the manage post page where you can add a new article. So let me go ahead and select a new thumbnail. I'm going to come over to my images and then just select anything over here. So I'm just going to take this one. There you go. And then add a catchy title. I'm going to say, so bedroom ideas in 2025 is what I typed out for the title. And for the content, I'm just going to add a couple of things over here just to mimic adding the content. Okay. And for the category, I'm going to choose something. Let me just say travel, and let's go ahead and create posts. Here you go. The article has been created, and based on the system that we currently have in place, whenever we create an article, as you can see, it automatically changes the whole system to now be able to edit the article. That's what we currently have in place. Now, whenever you make any change here, this button now says update post. You can use it to save the changes that you've made. That is pretty fine. And also we can come over to the profile. This is our profile page where you could change your full name, your job title, your country, and also your biography. And after you've done, maybe select a new avatar, you could go ahead and hit changes and it will update your profile for you. So those are all the features that we currently have in place. Now in the future, we'll keep expanding on this, add more features, or maybe even turn it into a full SaaS application where you just can be able to subscribe to be able to have access to some particular articles, or maybe have access to no adverts and things like that. So stay tuned for that. But for now, this is what we'll be starting with. Hopefully you will enjoy this tutorial and learn something new in the phase one. That's going to be it. I hope to see you in the next one. And until then, I'd love. Peace out. Hi, this is Destiny from DeskFix, and welcome back to the very first video in the blog application using Next.js and Supabase. In this one, we'll get started setting up our Next.js projects and also installing TailwindCSS. That is what we'll be working on. Hopefully you will enjoy the video and learn something new. So let's get started. Before we continue, consider dropping a like on the video and also subscribing to the channel, as that will really mean the world to me. Also, if you're interested in becoming a better developer with professional tools crafted to make your learning easier and faster, then check out deskfix.io. Link will be in the description below. So without any further ado, let's get started. To get the most out of this tutorial, we'll be using a couple of tools from DeskFix, just like I've mentioned in the introductory video. The very first thing that we'll be making use of here is a DeskFix tool called Tutorial with Step. So what I will do is open up my browser, come over to deskfix.io/tutorial steps. Link will also be in the description below. And you can see that over here, we have a tutorial named Fullstack blog app using Next.js, Supabase, and TailwindCSS. So I will go ahead and open up this one. If you don't have an account yet, sign up an account because you will need that to be able to enroll in this course. So I'll just go ahead and hit enroll now. Good. After you get enrolled, you see that it brings you to your dashboard. Now over here is where we can start taking this tutorial step by step, starting with module 1, which is project setup. Now, I want you to go through the introduction to the tech stacks that we will be using for this project, such as the Next.js, React, Supabase, TailwindCSS, and PostgreSQL. So over here, I've written a short description for them and also their use cases so that you can understand why we are making use of this. Okay, and after you've gone through everything over here, I want you to mark this as completed, and then we'll start off with the next one, which is going to be the installation part. So in this part, we'll be installing Next.js with TailwindCSS, and this will help us to build modern, responsive, and customizable UI with ease. So Next.js is going to provide us with a foundation for our app structure, routing, and also performance, while TailwindCSS will give us a utility-first approach to styling, which will allow for rapid development without writing custom CSS from scratch. And when I say it's a lifesaver, it's indeed a lifesaver. So you might ask, why do we want to use Tailwind plus Next.js? That's because we are going to be able to build UIs directly in our JSX using Tailwind classes like Flex, Gap4, BG White, and it's going to be very simple. If you've not taken any Tailwind course in the past, I would highly recommend that you check out devfix.io/courses/Tailwind. There's going to be a link in the description below if you're not able to get the URL that I just mentioned. It will take you to a course page where you get a detailed Tailwind CSS course for beginner, intermediate, and advanced, where we learn Tailwind CSS by building projects. So please check that out if you've not taken any Tailwind CSS course. And also, if you've not taken any React.js course, there's also a full masterclass React.js course on devfix.io. Link will also be in the description below. So the second reason why we are working with Tailwind and Next.js is because it automatically purges our unused style to keep CSS files small and very fast. And also because of its responsive design nature, and it's easily extendable with custom themes, plugin, and even dark mode support. So these are some of the reasons why we are using Tailwind CSS and Next.js. So let's go ahead and quit talking and get started installing our project. So what I want you to do is open up your command prompts if you're on a Windows machine. If you're on a MacBook, I want you to open up something that is called Terminal. So I'm on a Windows machine. I'm going to open up my command prompt. So I'm just going to search for command prompt. And before you even get started typing out any command line code here in the command prompt, you want to make sure that you have Node.js installed. If you don't have Node.js, you will not be able to run npm. That's not going to work for you. So what you need to do is hop over to your browser and just type out download Node, okay? And click on the first link that you can see and also this one over here. So all I want you to do is go ahead and choose your operating system. If you're in a Mac, if you're in Windows, if you're on a Linux, go ahead and choose whatever system you're on, and also leave these other ones as they are and just hit download over here. And after you've downloaded it, I want you to set it up just like you would set up any other application, any other executable application that you download from the internet. And after you're done with that, if you come over to your command prompt and type npm-version, you should be able to see the npm version. At the time of recording this video, I currently have version 10.9.2. Maybe yours might be newer or might be older. I believe it should be newer, but it should work perfectly well. Very good. I'll clean out my terminal by typing out CLS. And there you go. It's cleaned out the terminal. Now, we want to actually get started installing our new Next.js application. So for you to install Next.js application, you need to firstly choose where you want to install the application. So I want to do that here on my desktop where we can easily locate it. So I'm going to say cd to desktop. CD basically stands for change directory. So I'm changing directory to my desktop right now. Now to install Next.js, you just need to say npx create-next-app, and I want to create it with the latest version. So I'm going to say at latest, just like this, and hit enter on your keyboard and give it some time to initialize, and we get started. Good. As you can see, it's saying, hey, I need to install the following packages, Next.js 15. That's what we're working with. Then if you press Y, then it will proceed. So we just hit Y on our keyboard and it will proceed. So just give this some time. And over here, it's saying, yo, what do you want to name your project? I'm going to name mine Bloggy. You can name yours whatever you want, but I'm going to name mine Bloggy. Okay. Hit enter on your keyboard. Would you like to use TypeScript? Nope, we don't want to use TypeScript. Would you like to use ESLint? Yes, we want to use ESLint. This is what will basically highlight errors and warnings for us. Do you want to use Tailwind CSS? Of course, that's one of our backbone for the project. Would you like your code to be inside a source directory? Yes, I want that. It will help make our code look arranged and less clustered. Would you like to use the app router? Yes, I would like to use the app router because the app router is a newer version of the routing system that Next.js has. Previously, Next.js worked with page router, but then they recently introduced the app router, which is more better, more faster. In my opinion, I think I prefer this. It actually makes routing very, very easy. Don't worry, as you continue with this tutorial, you will see how to use it. So I'm just going to go ahead and select, yes, I want to use the app router. The turbo pack, do we want to use it? Yes, we want to use the turbo pack. Now, in case you're asking, Next.js for some reason actually runs very slow on development. That doesn't mean that Next.js is actually slow. Nope, it's not. It's a very fast framework. But on development, for some reason, refreshing and hot reload takes time. That is because Next.js actually needs to compile your application before serving a response back to you. But the Next.js introduced something that is called TurboPack for development. What TurboPack will do is basically just speed up your development experience. If it initially takes you like 3 seconds to run to actually see changes that you've written in your next application, this time around it's going to take like a second or maybe 0.5. So that is why we have TurboPack over here. Now let's just go ahead and hit yes. We want to actually work with TurboPack. Would you like to customize the imports alias at by default? Now, what this basically does is, remember that if you want to import things, maybe you've worked with React or maybe some other framework in the past, you need to say things like maybe import header from .. Then you access whatever you want to import. But this time around, we just need to append the @ symbol, then just put a very short path to the directory where we want it to be, and it gets the file or whatever they were looking for. This is one of the easiest way that I could explain it for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and take this. Yes, we need it. Oh, that's actually a problem. We don't really need that. It's supposed to be no. So you see that we've actually made a mistake. We're not going to be able to work with it again. So what I'm going to do is, if you want, you could just close up the application and start again. That was supposed to be no, but I mistakenly hit yes. Let's just do this again. It's very easy. I want to name my application Bloggy. Would you want to use TypeScript? No. ESLint. Yes. 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 Oh, that's supposed to be no. So I'm running this again. Bloggy is the name of the app. And would you like to use TypeScript? No. Would you like to use ESLint? Yes. 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 TurboPack. Yes, we want to make use of it. No, we don't want to customize the import alias. So that's the problem that we had in the past. So go ahead and hit no for that. And all you just need to do right now is sit back and let your project install. And then when it's done, we will get started with the other things that we need to do, which is basically starting our development server and taking a look at our project tree or our project structure. That is going to be it. Let's just sit back and wait for this to install. All right. Now, when you've seen success created Bloggy at this location over here, that means we have successfully created our first React Next.js app. Good. Now, all I want you to do is go ahead and run npm run dev. This is how you actually start the development server in Next.js. After running this, just hit enter on your keyboard, give it some seconds, and it should actually start up the project for you. But in this case, you can see we got these errors here. Well, that's quite simple. It's because we are supposed to be in the Bloggy folder before running the npm run dev command. So say cd into Bloggy, and you hit npm run dev and hit enter on your keyboard. So give this some seconds, and it started in 1.7 seconds. Very good. So now all you need to do is go ahead and open up this URL in your browser. I'm just going to copy this and then open up my favorites browser, in this case, Google Chrome. And then I'm going to get out here in a new tab and paste what I've just copied. Hit enter, and let's wait for it to show up what we have installed. All right. When you can see this, Next.js get started by editing, save and see your changes instantly. That means you have successfully installed your Next.js application. So with this now, let's open it up in our code editor and test out if TailwindCSS is actually working. So I'm going to get back to my desktop and come over here, right click on the Bloggy app, show more options, and then open with code. I'm going to maximize this so that everyone can see and make sure that I'm zooming in perfectly well. Now we will also be working with comment prompts, but this time around I will close this up and open up the comment prompt that Visual Studio Code has given to us. It's called the integrated terminal. I'm going to click on this 3 dots here, over on terminal, and then click on new terminal. So when the terminal opens up, you can now go ahead and run npm run dev over here, and it's still the same thing as the comment prompt. Hold down Control on your system and hit this localhost, or get over here. It can still show here. Good. So reloading will still give you the same thing. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is just come over to File, and I want to remove this autosave that I have over here. I will remove this, and then, yep, I'm good to go. So what I'm going to do right now is open up my source and then open up my page.js. And here is where we have the code that shows up this. So let's change up some things. Now you can see that we have this one that says get started by editing. How about we come over here and change up the color? Maybe say something like text red, maybe 600, just to see what we have. And then we'll save, get back here, and let's see if it changes the color. And of course, you can see that it's changed the color to red. Very good. That means TailwindCSS is working as expected, and that's going to be it for the tutorial. In the next one, we'll get started setting up Supabase, and also we'll configure Supabase to communicate with our application and the Supabase APIs. And after that, we'll get started creating our components, which is one of the most interesting parts of this course. For now, that is pretty much it. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and learned something new. If there is something that you don't understand, if you need help, let me know in the comment section or in the forum or in the threads below, or also in the question and answer section, and I'll be more than happy to help you out. You know that you can also shoot a mail to deskfix@gmail.com if you have any problem, if you have any issue, if you have anything to discuss, and I'll also be there to help you out. So if you're looking to level up as a developer using professional tools that are designed to accelerate and simplify your learning, be sure to check out deskfix.io. You'll find the link in the description below. And also, if you're planning to launch a startup and you need a team of experienced professional developers to bring your vision to life, feel free to reach out at deskfix@gmail.com. We'll schedule a call to learn more about your project, discuss your goals in detail, and also explore how we can collaborate to turn your idea into reality. That is going to be it for now. I hope to see you in the next video. Consider checking out Deskfix YouTube channel. Link will be in the description below. I hope to see you in the next one. And until then, mad love. Peace out. Hi. This is Destiny from Deskfix, and welcome back to another video in the blog application using Next.js and Supabase. In this one, we'll get started setting up Supabase and also configuring it so that it can communicate with our application and the Supabase API. That is what we'll be working on. It will be pretty easy and straightforward. Hopefully you will enjoy the video and learn something new. So let's get started. So the very first thing I'm going to do again is open up Deskfix tutorial with steps part 3. And in this one, we'll be setting up Supabase. So what we will basically do is integrate Supabase into our Next.js project to handle all backend functionality like authentication, database operation, real-time update, and even storage. So if you don't know, Supabase is an open source backend as a service platform that gives us a fully managed PostgreSQL database, a built-in authentication system, and powerful APIs without needing to set up your own backend from scratch. This setup is going to include creating a Supabase project, configuring the Postgres database, and also setting up row-level security in some places. And finally, we enable Supabase auth. Okay, we'll also install the Supabase JS clients library and then initialize it in our Next.js app using environment variables. This is all we're working on. Hopefully you will enjoy the video. So step 1 here is to create a Supabase account and project. So you need to hop over to supabase.com by clicking this link, or go to your browser and type out supabase.com. Sign up or log in if you don't have an account. So if you don't have an account, sign up. If you have an account, log in. I currently have an account, so I'm quickly going to log in. Okay, I'm already logged in. So all I just need to do now is hit this Start Your Project button here. You can see that I have also provided images here to guide you through in case you actually just want to follow the tutorial with step and not the video. But if you're following the video, it's good. We can still work from here. I currently have just one project. I'm going to create another one. And also, just so you know, I'm on the free tier. If you want to upgrade to a paid version, it's totally okay. I recommend that you upgrade to a paid version if you're looking to take your application to the next level. But for now, I think the free tier is okay for me. So I'm going to create a new project here, and I'm going to call this one Bloggy. And then you can type in your database password. You could use whatever you want. I'm just going to use testing321, and that's totally okay for me because I'm going to delete this later on. Just go ahead and create a new project and you should be done. So there you go. For now, I don't really need the password, so I'm just going to leave this out. So after you have done after you are done creating the password, I want you to come over to authentication, and I want you to come over to sign in, sign up. Make sure that this over here is checked. Make sure that it's active. I want you to scroll down and click on emails and turn off this one that says confirm email. Okay. And after you're done, that's pretty much what we want. Let's just get back here. Good. I want to be sure that it's turned off. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to save. I knew that something was actually wrong. So I'm just going to save this quickly. Now, this here is to actually confirm the email of users. Whenever a user creates an account on your platform, do you want to send them an email confirmation link that they can click on to confirm their email? If you don't want to do that, you turn it off. If you want to do that, you leave it on. Okay, so it up to you what you want. This one over here is basically to allow new users to sign up on our application. If this is disabled, users will not be able to create an account. So even if you've set up the API correctly, you will still find some errors that will restrict you from actually creating accounts for users. So make sure that this is turned on. After that is done, I want you to come over to API. Let's look at the image. So the image says that we should come over to settings, then come over to data API. So I'm going to come over to settings, which is this one over here, project settings, then come over to data API, and then we need to copy these two keys over here. Let's get back to the step-by-step guide. So we should just copy these two things and keep it somewhere safe. So what I'm going to do now is get back to my project, and let's close this up. For now, I'm going to say .env.local, and I'm going to paste the two API keys in my project. So this one is the project's URL. I'm going to say URL should be equal to that. And this one is my anon key. So I'm going to say anon key should be this. Hey guys, just so you know, we will still fix this up later, okay? For now, what we are doing is just saving this over here so that we don't actually go through the hassle of finding it when we need it. Just leave it as it is here, and let's continue. After you've done this, that's pretty much it. There is nothing else that you need to do. Close up Supabase and you're done. Good. So when we get back here now, you can see that it says we should install the Supabase client. In our projects directory, we need to run this. So I'm going to take this and then come over to our terminal. And our terminal is currently running here. Let's create a new one. Either click on this plus, but I prefer clicking on this icon here, which will split the terminal so that I can still see this one while having another space to run new commands. I'm going to run this command that says npm install supabase/supabase.js. This is just a Supabase JavaScript package that's going to help us connect to the Supabase APIs programmatically from our code. Okay, so give this some time and it's done installing. Now, after you have done that, we get back here. As you can see, it shows us how we can configure the Supabase client by creating a file in the lib folder called Supabase client.js. So there should be a folder called lib. Let's see if we have that. Oh, we don't. So over here in the app, or rather in the source, I'm going to create a new folder called lib, L-I-B. It stands for library. And in the library, I'm going to create a new file called Supabase client.js. And this is where we will basically set up our JS, our Supabase code. So over here, let's go ahead and run some commands. I'm going to import a couple of things. Let's start by saying import create client from Supabase.js. So this is just the create client function that comes from the Supabase JavaScript SDK. And after you've done that, we need to go ahead and retrieve the Supabase project URL from the environment variable. Remember over here in the environment variable, we have this, but then I don't really like the way it's looking now. So let's set it up and make it look better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get back to my step-by-step guide. And as you can see, it says we should set up environment variables. One is going to be called next public Supabase URL, which is this one, guys. Next public Supabase URL. And this other one is the next public Supabase anon key. So we are appending next so that just because this is how Next.js will be able to know which of these ones over here are environment variables. After you've changed up the naming or the variables for the keys, save this, get back to your Supabase clients.js, and now we can go ahead and actually retrieve the Supabase project from the environment variable. To do that, I'll say const and then call this one Supabase URL. Now, this should be equal to process.env. Then what did we call it in the environment variable? It's called next public Supabase URL. So I'm just going to paste it there and we are done. Now, let's do the same thing for the next one. I'm going to say down here, I'm going to say const, and we called that one anon key. So I'm going to say Supabase my bad. Let's type this out well. So I'm going to say Supabase anon key should be equal to process.env.next public Supabase anon key, which is basically what we called it here in the environments variable. I hope this is not confusing. Guys, this is pretty easy. We're just importing some things that we have defined in other places. And after you have done these two things, let's now go ahead and create and export a Supabase client instance using the project's URL and the anon key. In case you don't know, anon key basically stands for anonymous key. Okay. So to do that, on a new line, I'm going to say export const Supabase should be equal to, then we need to call the create client. And in the create client function, we'll pass in the Supabase URL, and also we'll pass in the Supabase anon key. And after you have done these two things, congratulations, that is pretty much what you need to do. So if you get back here now, you will see that it says that part 6 is to test the connection. This is optional. If you want to test it now, it's okay. If you don't want to test it now, don't worry. We'll test this when we start working with registration in the next 2 modules. But for now, that is pretty much it for module 1. Quite simple, quite straight to the point. We've been able to set up Next.js with TailwindCSS, and we've also been able to set up Supabase and connect it to our application so that it can directly talk with the Supabase APIs efficiently in a programmatic way. I hope that makes sense. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out through the comment section, discussion thread, Q&A section, forum, or even our support system. You can also contact us via our social media channels. We are actively monitoring them and we'll always be ready to assist you whenever you have problems. If you're looking up to level up as a developer using professional tools designed to accelerate and simplify your learning, be sure to check out deskfix.io. You'll find the link in the description below. And finally, if you're planning to launch a startup and need a team of experienced and professional developers to bring your vision to life, feel free to reach out at deskfix@gmail.com. We'll schedule a call and learn more about your project and also discuss your goals in detail, and finally explore how we can collaborate and turn your idea into reality. For now, that is pretty much it. I hope to see you in the next module, and until then, mad love, peace out. This is Destiny from DeskFix, and welcome back to another video in the blog application using Next.js, TailwindCSS, and Supabase. In this one, we'll get started with module 2, where we'll be creating components and also designing them using TailwindCSS. For the part 1, we'll get started by creating all the components that we will be needing. That is what we'll be working on. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and learned something new. If you're looking to level up as a developer using professional tools that are designed to accelerate and simplify your learning, be sure to check out deskfix.io. You will find the link in the description below. Also check out DeskFix YouTube channel. Your subscription there will really mean the world to me. So let's get started. I will highly recommend that you work with the tutorial with step for this one, because you can see that over here I've provided a tree that we will make use of. Depending on this tree, or rather based on this tree, we'll be creating all the folders and files that we will be needing, and that will come in very, very handy. So that's why I said that this is going to come in very handy. Let's get started. I'm going to get back to my project's code and close up the tabs that we currently have here. So if you're looking at the tree, we have a source folder, which is basically the source folder that we have here. And then we have an app folder, that has favicon, layout, and page.js, which currently has favicon, layout, and page.js. So in the app icon, we want to create a new folder called auth. So I'm going to create a new folder called auth, a folder, not a file. So folder called auth. And then I'm going to create another folder in there called login with a file called page.js in it, and another folder called register with a file called page.js. So I want you to know that with Next.js 15 app router, all folders will automatically become a route, or rather a URL. For example, if you want to access the login page, you just need to say auth/login, then whatever code you have put in this page.js will be rendered. So all folder names automatically become a URL with the app router. So what we need to do is get down here in the auth, create a new folder called login, and in the login, create a new file called page.js. In the auth again, create a new folder called register, and in the register, create a new file called page.js. Very good. Now for those ones, I'm just going to initialize my default component by typing out rfc and hit enter. Now you might be wondering, hey Destiny, how did you get this? Now I got this because I have this extension installed. Let me show you. So there is this extension called ES7 React Redux React Native Snippets. I have it installed. That is why I can run shortcut commands to create functions for me, like saying rfc, and it creates this for me. And I'm going to change it to say register and save. And I'm going to do the same thing for login, rfc, and then change the text to login. So this is just React.js functional components. Again, if this is your first React.js course or your first Next.js course, you should make sure that you've taken a beginner or entry-level React.js course. I have one Fullstack. I have one masterclass React.js course on deskfix.io. Do make sure to check it out. I'm going to drop the link in the description below. Now, after you have done this, go ahead and save. Now, for us to access this page here, we just need to say, come over to auth/login, and then we access this. Now, this is way easier than working with React.js React Router DOM, because you don't need a centralized source of truth where you need to import all your files before you can actually start configuring them with browser routes, normal routes, before you can be able to access it in the browser. Right now, you could immediately come over to the browser, provided that your server is still running here, and you could say localhost/auth/login, and there you go. We can already see our login page showing up here. It's as simple as that, guys. That is why App Router is a no-brainer. So let's continue creating other pages. We are done with the auth. Now the next one is going to be, let me get back to the DeskFix tutorial with step and look at the tree. So we have auth. Now let's create one for author. So over here in the app, I'm going to create a new folder called author, and it needs to have a page. So the main page for the author is going to be page.js. But then we need a way to access a single author's profile. And for that, you need to create a new folder here. This one is just going to be ID like this. So with this ID, you need a page inside it. So page should be page.js. Hi guys, I hope that you're following along. Let me explain what's going on. So do you remember how we created routes like this? Any folder automatically becomes a route that you can access in the browser. Now inside that route, you need a place to write your code. That is why we have this page.js in here. All the files must be named page.js. It's compulsory. You can't name it anything else. But then the folder can be named anything that you want the URL to be. For example, login, for example, register. Now for this one, we want to be able to access the author page, and then whenever we access the author page, we want to show the list of authors over here. So this is going to be authors. Now this is going to be list of authors. Let's just say we have 4 authors. Okay. Now, whenever you try accessing this by saying authors like this, hit enter on your keyboard and let's view what we have. Okay, it says 404. Let's see what the problem is. You can say I called it author over here instead of authors. So you just get back and say author. There you go. List of authors 4. So you can see that we access all the authors over here. Now we'll have 4 authors, 1, 2, 3, and 4. When we click on a particular author, we want to be able to actually open up that author's own private page. So we need a way that when we click on one single author, we want to view just that author's informations, like their name, their biography, all the posts that they have, their total likes, views, comments, and all that. And for that, we need to be able to do something like author / then a random ID over here. Now, when we access that random ID, that is when we want to show that author's information. So for you to be able to do this or create it in a folder, what you need to say is, oops, I'm going to close this. Over here, what you need to say is author / ID, and in the ID, you're going to have page.js. But the ID, wrapping it in square brackets, will basically tell Next.js that it's going to be a query parameter. Okay. So what we simply do is wrap it in the brackets, and in here, we pass in page.js. So with that now, we seem to have a problem over here. Let's see what the problem is. Page.js. Okay, we don't have anything in here. Let's just say RFC, and then we'll change this to author detail and save. This name is not even it's not even compulsory. You can leave whatever name you want in there. And now see author detail. So whenever we access a particular specific ID, we will be able to navigate to one particular author. Does that make sense? So that is basically how it works for the author. Let's get back to our tree and work with other ones. Let's create a new folder for categories. And in the categories, we'll create a new file called page.js. So in here, page.js. And then we need a way to access one single category by slug. So we'll create a folder called slug in square brackets. So in the categories folder, I'll create a new folder called slug. The slug text will be wrapped in square brackets. In the slug, then I'll create the components where we'll write out its code. That will be called page.js. Are you catching the drift already? This is basically how it works. Now let's do the same thing for another folder here called components. So I'm going to create in the app a new folder called components, and that one is going to have footer, header, and category JSX. Now, this one will not be a route. It will not be a URL that can be accessed. It's just an external component that will be imported. For example, the header of a website or the footer of a website doesn't need to have its own specific URL, right? It's just something that you can create and export so that on the main components, like the login page or the logout page or the register page, you can import the header and initialize the components there. Then the header will pop up and show. You don't need a specific URL to access it. That is why in the components folder, I will create a new file called header.jsx. And for this one, I'm just going to say RAFCE to create a React arrow function. And then I'm going to create another file here called the footer.jsx and then say RAFCE. Please, before you can use this function shortcuts, make sure that you have installed the package, okay? And finally, in the categories, I need another one called, finally in the components, I need another one called category.jsx. And after that, we are done. Good. So you can see that we have these ones here named images and index. Don't worry, these are for barrel exports. We'll do this later on. But let's just go ahead and create the files. So I'm going to say images.js. This is where we'll be exporting all our images from, so that whenever we want to import an image, we don't need to be getting image from different locations. We will know that, hey, all our images has been imported in a particular file called image.js. Now, image.js file is the one that's going to serve the images to any components that we want. Don't stress yourself about it now. You will see how it will work. In the components, I'm going to create another one called index.js. Good. And we are done. Now let's create another one. Forget about the UI, okay? You can see over here, I say that it will be populated from shardcn, which is a UI that we'll be using from TailwindCSS to build our application. Now, we have to create another folder called dashboard. So in the app, I'm going to create a new folder called dashboard. In the dashboard, we need a new page.js. So in the dashboard, I think it didn't get created. So let me create it again. Dashboard. And then in the dashboard, we need a page.js. So we need a page.js, and then we need a new folder called article. So article. And then in the article, you already know we need a page.js in the article. Page.js is basically where you write down your code. The article folder is basically the route, okay? In the dashboard, we need another folder called profile. And in the profile, we need a file called, can you guess? If you say the page.js, then you're very right. And with that, we are done with the dashboard. Very good. Another one that we will need is the pages folder. So I'm going to say pages. And this is basically where we want to have things like the about and the contacts page and all. So for this one, I'm going to create a new one that's going to be about. And I'm going to create another one that's going to be contacts. In this folders, create their pages.js for them. Okay, which is where we'll write the code. So page.js. Good. Minimize. And then we need another one that is called, do we really need another one for now? Okay, remember that we have this pages.js here, which is like the index page. This pages.js is going to have a list of articles. Whenever you click on a particular article, we want it to go to a particular page where we will read everything about the article. So that is why in the app, I'm going to create a new folder and call this one slug, like this. So this is going to be like the article detail page. Remember, inside it, you need to say page.js, and we are done. When you've done all this, that is pretty much what you want. So now you could just go ahead and close up all the files that you have, and we are ready to go. So let's get back to our 3. You can see the last thing that we created here was this. So we also need context and auth context.js and also these hooks, but don't stress yourself about these ones. We'll work with this later. Okay, so if you've been able to follow along with me while we created all these components, then that is pretty much it. If you have any question, let me know in the comment section and I'll be more than happy to help you out. Okay, so you can reach out to us through the comment section or even the discussion thread, the Q&A section, the forums, and also maybe our support system. You can also contact us via our social media channels because we are actively monitoring them and we are always ready to assist you. If you're also looking up to level up as a developer, using professional tools that are designed to simplify and to accelerate and simplify your learning, be sure to check out deskfix.io. Link will be in the description below. Finally, if you're planning to launch a startup and you need a team of experienced developers to bring your vision to life, feel free to reach out to us at deskfix@gmail.com. We'll schedule a call to learn more about your project, discuss your goals in detail, and finally explore how we can collaborate to turn your idea into reality. But for now, that is pretty much it. I hope to see you in the next one. And until then, much love. Peace out. Hey there, and welcome back to another video in the blog application using Next.js, Supabase, and TailwindCSS. In this one, we'll get started creating the header and the footer components, and we will also configure our layouts.js just to make sure that everything works very well for our page. Think of the layouts.js as the index.html file where you can do things like create head, create body tags, create metadata, install fonts, and things like that. After that, we'll go ahead and work on the header and also the footer. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and learned something new. So let's get started. Now I'm going to open up my code editor and I want to come over to layouts.js, which is basically where we will write some very simple code to help us perform some operation. Okay, so just to make sure that everything here isn't very, very confusing for you, what I'm going to do is remove some things. So I'm going to remove everything here. and remove this too. So do you see how it's looking? And also I'm going to remove this here. Good, so that we have only this. Now let's go ahead and import a new font that we will be using. So this is how to import fonts in Next.js. I want to import a font called Sora. I'm going to say import Sora font from, and then for you to get the font, just say next/font/Google. And just like that, you'll be able to get the Sora font. Good. Can you see it exists? So after that, let's go ahead and initialize it. So I'm going to say const Sora should be equal to, then let's call the Sora that we imported and pass in some parameters in here or some properties. So the very first thing I want is a variable. So a variable should be, then I'm going to say --font-Sora. This is how we get to know what the fonts that we want to use should be. And also what should be a subset. So subset of the font should be Latin. So with the subsets, we are basically telling Next.js to only include the Latin character sets of the Sora fonts, which will help reduce font size and also load time. So what we are doing is just targeting only the Latin-based language like English, Spanish, and more. So it's very ideal if you were working with fonts. The variable, just like I've said, it just defines a CSS variable for the font. Once defined, we can use it in our Tailwind config or maybe in an element, just like you can use a class for anything that you want. So after you have defined that, let's change up our metadata. The title of the application is going to be bloggy, and I'm going to say read, write, learn. And for the description, you can add whatever you want. So we could even add this read, write, and learn also there. I'm going to say read, write, learn, or you could leave it to just say generated by the next app. It's up to you what you want to add, okay? I'm just going to add read, write, learn. All good. So when you have done this, let's go ahead and create a new header, a new head in the HTML. I'm going to say head like this should be, or rather, what should it contain? So for the title, it should contain, this is how you're going to do it. This is how you'll do it. So remember that when creating title, it's going to be something like, not that. It should be a tag like this. Then in here, all you just need to say is metadata.title. Okay. So this is a chaining. So this is a chaining operator over here, kind of like a conditional chaining, which means if title does not exist in this metadata dictionary, we're not going to break the program. Rather, we just return null. Okay, guys, this is something that I have taught in our React.js masterclass. If you're taking a blog application using Next.js and Supabase and Tailwind, I highly believe that you should already have some experience with React.js. If you don't have experience with React.js, I will highly recommend that you drop this course right now and take an intermediate or an entry-level JavaScript and Next.js course. Okay, I have a couple of them on my channel. I also have more on DexFix Pro. Make sure to check those out. So for the meta, let's go ahead and add that in. So for the meta, whoops, it should be meta like this. Whoops, I'm going to go back. That's not what I want. So create and say meta. And in here, we just need to say metadata dot description. And we are done. Now, the next thing we need to add will be some icons like the remix icon and the font awesome icons that we will be using. So I must have provided this in a snippet folder. Please check out for any snippet folder that I must have linked anywhere, maybe in the description or in the course curriculums. There, you will get all the CDNs and everything that we are using, okay? So what I'm going to do right now is just paste in the CDN for font awesome and also for remix icon. And here, there you go. After you have done that, we are done. Let's add some things to the body over here. So you see over here, we have this anti-aliased class we also need to add a couple more things. For example, the fonts that we want to use should be the Sora font. So we'll say font should be, then over here, I'm going to say Sora, just like that. If you don't want to add it that way, you could still say something like here, call a JavaScript variable tag and say Sora dot class name, and that's still going to work perfectly well. Okay. So, yep, that is pretty much it. Let's see how everything is looking now on our main page. When you get back here, oh, seems like we have an error, but let's wait for it to reload. So the only problem here is that we are not rendering this metadata as it should be. What you need to do is take this out. Remember that metadata is a self-closing tag. And for that one, you need to say the name should be description, like this, and also the content should be, and that is where we will have the metadata.description. Save this and let's see if that will fix our error for us. Good. And now can you guys see we have a new font over here, which is the Sora font. We are ready to go. So after you have done this, that is pretty much what we want to do. So now let's go ahead and actually style our header so that you can see something work. Now in the source app page.js, which is this one here, I want you to remove everything that we have over here. Remove everything here. And then I want you to create a new React fragment. And I want you to create a hello world, a H1, and say homepage, or maybe something like welcome to my blog. Very good. You save this and let's get back to the homepage. Remove all those URLs here. Make sure that you're just at localhost 3000. Now see, welcome to my blog. Now, if you are to import the header, so if you say something like import header, it's going to get imported like this. But then if you also want to import footer, we need to go to a new line and also say import footer. So it also gets imported like this. That is where barrel exporting comes in. We don't want to have this really long line of imports whenever we want to import things. That is why we want to import all those things in a very long line in one page, so that whenever we want to import it in another page, it doesn't have to be a very long line anymore. So for you to fix that, open up your components, index.js, and then say export default as header. And what we want to export is from /header. Do the same thing for the footer and do the same thing for the category. Do we have category over there? Of course we do. Just say category. Good. That's this one. To change up this text here, this should be header. This should be footer. Now let me explain what's going on. Please, I don't want this to confuse you. This is quite simple. So guys, what we are doing here is something that's called barrel exporting. It basically simplifies import and export in React, Next.js, or even in frameworks in general. So we just said, hey, I want you to export the header for me. And this is where the header is sitting. Also, I want you to export the footer for me. And this is where the footer is. Do the same thing for the category. Now, with all this, if you want to import the header, the footer, the category in a page, you don't need to do this like we've done it before. Take note of this. Now, what you need to do is say import header. And let me show you. Rather, we say import head. Whoops, that should be header. Oh, I'm not really typing it well. So I'm going to say import header like this from, and then we need to pass in where we want to import header from. We say @/app/. You don't really need to go the app route though, but if you want to do that, it's okay. Components / then you call the index.js. Good. That's where the header is sitting. See? So you can also just put a comma and import footer, put a comma and import category. You see how we imported everything in just one line rather than importing multiple things like this. Let me show you, like this, which will not be very, very efficient. So that's why we did it this way, so that everything will be structured in a single coily braces. Very good, guys. That is pretty much what we want. So now you could take this header that we have here and call that component down here like this. Oh, whoops, not that. This rather. this, and please wrap this in a React fragment. I hope I didn't just confuse you. It's just that my prettier seems to be helping me automatically format my code immediately as I code, and that's in some cases really messes things up. So here, change this one to footer. I'm trying to add the header and the footer here. So now when you view this, see header, welcome to my blog, footer. So guys, whatever change you make over here in the header will reflect over here. Do you catch my drift? So that's basically what we will be working on. So now all we need to do is just go ahead and style up our header and we should be done. So I'm going to get back to my code and let's start styling the header. So let's start by actually creating a new header over here. And in this header, I'm going to have a link tag. So you can import link from Next.js. I'm going to say import link. That should come from next link, kind of like an anchor tag or React.js link, or rather React router DOM link. I hope you get the point. So in this link, I will have a H1 that's going to say bloggy. Good. And after that, if you save this and then we get back here, you should now be able to see bloggy show up here. Okay, we seem to have a problem. Link does not have a to. So add to where you want it to go, or rather href. So I want it to just go to the empty slash, which is going to be the home page. And with this now, we save, we get back here, and it has been fixed. You can see bloggy showing up there. Very good, guys. So after you've done this one for the bloggy, let's go ahead and style that up a little bit. And also we want to style the header, the link, and the H1 so that you can see this thing start coming in very well. What I'm going to do is give the header a class name. And the very first thing I want to give it is a flex. If you've taken any CSS course in the past, then you will know what flexbox grid are. You know what justify between, item center. You know what padding on the X and on the Y are. You know what a border radius 50% will do and all that. But don't worry, I will still explain all this in this tutorial in case you haven't really, dedicated yourself to taking a full React. In case you haven't taken a CSS course in the past, don't worry, I'll still explain this. So what Flex is going to do is basically make this header a flexible container, which means you can stack all the items that will be inside the header, either vertically or horizontally. But I want to stack all of them horizontally. So I'm just going to say flex dash row. Good. And then I want everything to be in between. If you don't understand what that means, I'm going to open up a tool that I have here called just hold on, Excalidraw. So I like using Excalidraw to explain things when I'm working on them. Okay, this was what I worked. This was my last explanation from our Tailwind course. I'm gonna get rid of this right now. I don't really need it anymore. Just delete. And now let's draw something new. So guys, we have our header like this, yeah, and then we will have some text like this. Let me show you. So we have bloggy. Oops, why is that so small? That's actually way too small. I think it's because my header is too big. Let me bring it out like this. Good. So we have bloggy, and then we have things like the home. We also have things like about. You get the point. Things like home, about, and then we're going to have something else like sign in. Yeah. Now, these by default will be stacked like this. They will all be stacked like this. See? Now, the problem is this isn't how a real navigation should look. Everything should be horizontal. Everything should be stacked in a horizontal manner like this instead of being stacked like this. And how do we do that? That is by giving our header a flex and flex row. Immediately you give it the flex row, everything will then come in like this. Very good. Now, if you've built a navigation in the past, you should already be guessing that, hey, Destiny, this actually doesn't really look good because in the last project that I built, I noticed that this sign in is supposed to be somewhere here, and this home and about is supposed to be somewhere here. But how do we actually do that? Now that is where passing in justify between comes to play. Let's say that I'm duplicating this link in 3 places like this. With flex row, you will see that all of them will be on one line. Let me show you. So all of them will be like this. Bloggy, just hold on. Bloggy. I'm just trying to make things more easier so that you can understand what's going on. And this. So now that's how this is going to look. Can you see? Bloggy, bloggy, bloggy. That's what we have over here. Now, as soon as you give this a justify dash between, automatically you will see that this is going to come to the center. This is going to go to the end like this. This one is going to come all the way to the end here. This one is going to go to the center, making it almost look like a navigation. Let's test it out. Save your code and let's see. There you go. Can you see how it looked? Very, very fine. Now that we've done that, we want to make sure that everything aligns to the center. Now, what does that mean? By default, those bloggy things that we created over here will be at the top like this. You see? But we want everything to be at the exact center like this so that it looks good. Now, for you to do that, to bring this to the center and also these two to the center, you need to give it a class called items center. Very good. And after you've done that, let's give it a background. I'm going to say BG Indigo 800 is the color of the background that I want to give it. So right now, when you get back here, you can see we now have that background color. Good. And I need a margin at the top. I don't want it to be touching the top. I also don't want it to be touching the edge over here. You can say it's touching the edge. I don't want that. Let me explain what I mean. So I have my websites like this. Just hold on. I'm going to explain what I'm trying to do. So I have my sites like this. Yeah. I'm going to take this layer to the back. So I'm going to bring this to the bottom here. Now, I don't want this nav bar that we currently have to be touching my website. Rather, I want it to be something like this. Let me show you. So I want it to be something like this. Then it's going to come down here and it's going to be looking all modern, you know, something like this. So how do we actually achieve something like that? Now, you need to add a margin to the top and to the bottom, and you also need to add a margin to the left and to the right. So with Tailwind, you can say my, and I'm just going to say 5. So my is basically margin on the y-axis. Y-axis is the top and bottom. Take note of that. And I also want to say mx should be 5. So x is the x-axis, which is the left and the right. Does that make sense? So with this now, when you save, get back here, there you go. Can you see how it's looking? Very, very clean. Now, after you have done this, I want this my5 to only be visible on the small screen. But then on the large screen, I don't actually want that. So I want this mx over here, which is the space between the left and the right, to only be there on the mobile like this. Let me show you. So I only want it to be there on the mobile like this. But on the desktop screen, I don't want it to have the same. So let's style the mobile responsive design. I'm going to say on the large screen, I want the MX to be 33 pixels. And on the small screen, it should remain MX5. That is because whenever you assign any of the studio over here that says LG, Tailwind automatically takes the next one and applies it to the smallest screen. So you don't necessarily need to say something like SM, okay? Tailwind automatically does that for you. So with this now, see, can you see all this big space here? That's what I want. But then if you go over to the mobile, you can see that that space gets taken away and it returns back to MX5. Do you catch the drift? So that's basically what's going on. Now, that means over here on desktop, we're going to have something that looks like this while this is in here. And this also, this comes in here and this gets here. Good. Does that make sense? So that's how it's looking. So with all this now, that's basically what we want. Let's go ahead and run some more styles to make things look good, because it doesn't really look good right now. If you take a close look at this, we don't have any breathing space inside this header. Let's add some breathing space inside there. So to do that, all you just need to say is padding on the left and right should just be 2. And also padding on the top and bottom should be 4. And now when you save and look at it, you will see we have some breathing space at the top and also at the left and right. I want it to be rounded. I don't like the sharp corners. I want it to be like rounded, very, very rounded. So how do we do that? You need to add something that is called rounded-full. Then you save your code. We get back here and now see, it's now perfectly rounded. Good, we are done with this. Now let's just go ahead and style the bloggy. The H1, I'm going to give it a class name of, say, text on the small screen should be 2XL, but on the large screen, I want the text to be 3XL, 3 extra large. I want the font weight to be bold, and I want the margin on the start should be 3. So margin start is basically this. Let me show you. So let's say that right now, this bloggy is like this. If you say margin start should be 3, this here is the start, here is the start, here is the end. Let me show you. Here is the start, here is the end. So if you're saying margin start should be 3, it's going to push this like this. Whoops. Let me get rid of that. So let me just get rid of the arrows that we had over here. So if you say margin S3, it will push it like this. If you say margin S5 like this, margin S10, it will keep pushing it like this. If you say margin E3, it will push it like this. Margin E5, it will push it like this, and it will keep pushing it. So margin E stands for margin end. Margin S starts for margin start. Okay. So I said over here, MS3. That's some space at the beginning. Save this, and over here we see some space here, and blog is looking pretty cool. So guys, let's go ahead and add our menu bar, our sign up button, and we should be done. So for the menu bar, we'll be using a package called shadcn. Shadcn is just a Tailwind CSS UI package that helps you actually write your website faster, which means, for example, now we are trying to create like a drop down. Things like home, about, contact, pages, articles, categories. But we don't want to spend a lot of time writing out the JavaScript for that. Instead, we want to streamline the coding experience with a package. That is where using a UI tool comes in. And for this one, we'll be using one called shadcn. Good. So after you have opened up shadcn, come over to components. And I want you to look for something called a menu bar. So I'm going to look for a menu bar, which is this one, and this is exactly what I want over here. Can you see? That's what I want. So let's go ahead and install this. Copy this, and I want you to open this up and then paste in your terminal and hit enter and allow it to install. Just hit Y to proceed. It's saying that we will need to create a components.json file to add the components. Do we want to do that? Yes, of course. I'm going to hit Y and choose neutral as the default color. So all you need to do over here is force it to install. Okay. Yeah. Just force it to install. That works all the time. There you go. We have successfully installed the menu bar from shadcn. Now I could close this up and then go over to my header, and we need to import this at the top. So to import this, all we just need to say is imports, and then I'm going to wrap this and say so to import this, I'm going to say go over to source slash, then I'm coming over to components /UI/menu bar. That is what we want. So after you have imported that, you can go ahead and save your code and let's use it. So we need a couple of things. We need menu bar, we need menu bar content. We also need menu bar item. We also need menu bar menu, and finally we need menu bar trigger. Good. So after you've imported all this, let's go ahead and use it down here. So instead of these 2 links, I'll get rid of it, and just down here we'll be creating a new type of menu bar. So for this one, I'm gonna say, hey, here I need menu bar. Wrap everything in a menu bar, and we actually need to go and create our very first link. So to do that, you need one that's called menu bar menu. So menu bar menu, and inside the menu bar menu is where you now have something called menu bar trigger, and this should be called home. Menu bar trigger, which is this one, and in here we want to have home. Save this and let's see what we have. So save, and we get back to our bloggy. Why are we getting this error? Let's just reload the page. So we're getting this error that says, hey, cannot resolve TWS animate CSS. Let's go ahead and install that package. So when you get errors like that, you just need to say npm install, then whoops, that's not it. Npm install, then you paste down the package that's causing the issue and let it install. That is because if you're to look at our global CSS, you can see that shardcn is automatically trying to import it over here, but then we don't have it in our package JSON. That is why we have to manually install it. After that, let's go ahead and see the problem that we are getting next. I'm going to stop my server and run it again, just to be sure that we don't have any problem anymore. Good, it has started. So let's get back here and reload. All right, there you go. You can see what we have over here right now is this. So this is how the home looks. Not really like what I wanted, but don't worry, we'll make it better. So let's get back to our code. And because some things have changed over here now, let's get to the, I'm going to open up the layouts.js and change up some things in here. For example, if we say, hey, I want the background to be BG red 400, let's see what we have. There you go. So instead of BG red 400 for the background, I want it to be something else. So I want it to be BG gradient to bottom. I want to have a gradient that goes from the top to the bottom. And the two colors that I need is, the very first one is going to be hash 050611, 050611. And the next color is going to be 2. What color? It should be 20400C. We save and let's see what we have. Oh, there you go. That looks good. So when you have done this, for now, that's pretty much everything that we want to do. Let's just go ahead and change all the text to be white. For example, those bloggy text needs to be white. I'm going to say text-white. And I'm also going to pass in relative. That is because I'll be working with some positioning later on. Don't worry, I will explain all this as we continue the tutorial. So right now, we should have white text. Good. I'm also going to change my sizing to be 100%. So that it looks like this and more fine. All right, guys, that's how everything looks right now. Let's get back to the header and keep styling. So back in the header, we've created the very first menu. Let's create another one. So I'm just going to duplicate this and put it down there. And this one is going to be called categories. Okay. So I want you to know that these are supposed to be links. So let's put this in links. This is a link. And it should have a href. You already know the drill. This href should basically just go to, this one is the home. So you should just go to slash like this. This is the categories link. So this one should just go to href should be equal to slash categories. Good. And then we need to paste this menu bar down here again. So I'm going to paste menu bar. This one is going to be overview, or let's just call it dashboard. Okay. It doesn't really need that link. Below the trigger, we want to create one other thing that is called menu bar content. And the menu bar content is basically what will now hold all the text that should be inside it. So each menu bar content is going to have a menu bar item, and each menu bar item is going to have a link in them. For example, overview. Good. Do you understand how it's going? For now, we're not writing any Tailwind CSS because shardcn has done this for us. But guys, we'll be writing a lot of Tailwind CSS moving forward in this project. For now, we are just using shardcn to bring in the menu bar and make it work perfectly well. After this, we'll start writing custom Tailwind CSS codes. So when you have done this, you go ahead and add the link to where you want it to go to. I want the overview to go to the dashboard page, and go ahead and duplicate the menu item in 3 places. This one is going to be create article, and I want you to go to dashboard / article / manage. This last one is going to be articles, and I want you to go to dashboard / articles / all. Good, and we are done. So with that, I think that's everything that we need to. Okay, let's duplicate the menu bar item just one more time and change this one to, it doesn't need, okay, yeah, it needs a link. Just change this one to say edit profile, and it should go to dashboard / profile like this. So dashboard / profile. Good. Save this and let's see what we have. So back here, you can see everything that we have over. Whoops, I think we have an error. Okay, it says href expects something, but oh, that's because we are giving this class name instead of href. That's very wrong. So hopefully you didn't make this mistake that I made. Please, it should be href, not class names. When you've given hrefs, there you go. We don't have any bug. We don't have any bug over here anymore. Good, but we can't see anything. That doesn't look good. Let's change some things up by styling the menu bar. So I'm going to give the menu bar a class name. And for this one, I'm just going to say text should be white. And I want the background to be transparent. So for that, just say hash ff, then 0000000. One last one. Good. And it should be transparent. And wait, let me say 000. I just want to bring this down here. Okay. And after you've done that, let's go ahead and remove the borders. If you have to save this now, let's see what we have. See how it looks. When you click on this, see, do you see how it's looking? When you click on this, we have this. When you come over here, we have this drop down. That's what we want. Let's remove the border. So I'm going to say border should be 0. And I don't want any shadow. So I'm going to say shadow should be none. I don't want any shadow. And I want it to be hidden on small screen, but shown on the large screen. So on the large screen, I'm making it to be flex, which means it should show, but be hidden on the small screen. So with this now, let's see what we have. I'm going to save this and we get back here. It says the default export is not a React component, categories / page. What does that mean? Let's see what's going on. So here we have categories. The default export is not a page. Categories, page.js. Oh, that is because we didn't add this. Let's just add something in here, okay? Just to make sure that we're not getting an error. All right, good. Let's see if that was the problem. All right, see, we have page. But I'm going to go back to the home page. That's where I'm working with. You see that I clicked on the categories. That's why it went to the category. So guys, can you see how this is looking now? It's looking very good. It's beginning to come in perfectly well. So we have more links that we need to create and we should be done. All we just need to do is copy this menu bar menu. Okay, I'm going to duplicate this one that has the menu bar content. And then I'm going to create pages. This dashboard here should be called page is, and this one should be about, this one should be contacts, and then we remove this other two. And then you can change up the links here. This should go to pages / about. I hope you understand what's going on. I'm just creating menu. If you've worked with any front-end project in the past, then this should not be a big problem for you. Okay, so with all this now, when you save your code, we should now see that we have one more that will be pages. So clicking on this opens up a drop down like this. Okay. So guys, when you have done this, that is pretty much what we want to do. Okay. Now let's go ahead and create some URLs like the. Now let's go ahead and actually create some links like the one that's going to show us all the posts that has been bookmarked, and it's going to be in a modal and all, and you'll see how that's going to work. Okay. So for this, it will be done just below the menu bar over here. So over here, we're going to have the bookmarked section. Good. And this will be powered by chat.cn dialog box. So I want you to come over to chat.cn and I want you to open up chat.cn dialog. Just look for it. This is it over here. And I want you to install this. Copy that and install it here in your terminal. And when force comes up, make sure that you force it to install. So let's go ahead and import the dialog. So I'm going to say import dialog from this components UI dialog. Very good. And that is the same thing we're even supposed to do here. We're supposed to say import this from at components UI menu bar. And that's still going to work well, so that we don't have to do the dot dot slash. That is why we are importing this alias over here. So we are importing dialog. We also need dialog close. So dialog close. Whoops, that should be dialog close, that one there. And let's quickly import this. We need dialog contents. We also need dialog footer. We also need dialog header. And we also need dialog trigger. Dialog trigger. Very good. So after we have done this, that's pretty much what we want to do. Let's go ahead and work with the dialogs that we've just imported right now. So to do that, below the menu bar here, where I have bookmark section, let's go ahead and create a new dialog instance. So I'm going to say dialog, just like that. And then we need to create a dialog trigger. Dialog trigger is like the link that we'll click on to open up a dialog. Dialog is a modal, okay? I'm going to say dialog trigger, and this trigger should be a button. This button is going to be an I tag, and it's going to be ri-hat-line, and I want the size to be text 2XL. So now when we save this, let me show you what we have. We get back here rather. See, we have this icon showing up, but right now it's not going to open up anything when you click on it. That is because we haven't added everything else that we need for it. Okay, so over here I'm just going to append. Okay, for now let's leave that out. Below the dialog trigger, that is where we need to add the contents. So for that one, it's going to be dialog contents. And in the dialog contents, is sure we're going to have things like the dialog header and the dialog description and all that. So let's start with the dialog header. Dialog header is just going to say, it's just going to be a H3 tag that says bookmarked article. And I'm just going to say 3 articles. Good. And then below it, below the dialog header, we just need a div that's gonna hold the articles. Okay, so the very first div is gonna be, okay, let's create the structure firstly. I'm gonna have a div, and inside that div I'm gonna have another div, and inside this one I'm gonna have another div, and inside this one I'm gonna have another div. I know it seems like a lot. Don't worry, I'll show you guys how we work with this. Then I need a link over here. This link is gonna have a href. Please don't miss that out. So href should be, just put an empty slash for now, and here I'm gonna have a div. This div that we have in here will now hold an image. So this image is gonna be a default image. So guys, let's go ahead and actually bring in images. For now, we don't even have any folder for asset files yet, so we'll go ahead and bring that in from the DeskFix coding challenge. Remember how we downloaded our source material from the DeskFix coding challenge in the previous video? We are going to go ahead and open up the folder where we downloaded the asset files from, and we'll paste all the images that will be needed inside here. Let's go ahead and do that. So if you open up the folder that I have provided in the DeskFix coding challenge for this project, there's going to be a folder called assets. I want you to copy that asset folder, and that's what you need to put in your public. So in your public, just paste the assets folder. Good. Now this is it over here. So all we just need to do right now is go ahead and also configure a barrel export for images. So for us to do that, we get back to our code, and remember here that we have images.js. I hope you're following along. We're going to say export const, and I'm going to call this one default article should be equal to, and the part of the file is going to be /assets /images /default. That should be default, okay? /default article.png. Let's confirm that that part exists. Assets, images, default. Then you can see it here, default article.png. Duplicate this and also create another one for default avatar. So default avatar, and this one is going to be default avatar.png. Good. We save this and that's it. So in the header, you need to go ahead and import that default article. So import default article. And what I'm going to do right now is get back here to where we are writing the code. And in this image source, I'm going to say default article. So do you see how we just did this? We imported this default article here so that we will have a default image that we will be using for now. Does that make sense? So let's check out what we currently have. So can you see something is coming in? You can close this. When you click, it opens up. You can see something here, but it's still in a white color. So let's style up the div just to make sure that it looks good before we continue, okay? Because if it doesn't look good, we won't be seeing what's going on. So I'm going to start with the very first div at the very top. I'm going to say class and say flex items dash center. I need a space x2 and margin at the top should be 6, which means I need a margin for whatever contents that we're going to be putting down here. Okay. And after you have done that, let's go ahead and style the next one. But guys, before we do that, I want you to style the dialog content. Let's quickly style the dialog content so that it makes sense. The max width for the dialog content, the max width for the dialog content should be extra large. All the text in there should be white. I want the background of the dialog content should be, and over here I'm going to say hash 050510. That should just be 510 050 050510 like that. Good. And then I need border to be 1, and the color of the border should be border gray 800. Good. So let's see what we currently have. We have something that looks like this now. Can you see? Looks good. So this is how you change up the default styling of the chat.cn components. Very good. So now that we have this, default image seems not to be showing up for some reason. Let's see what's the problem. /images/png does not exist. So the path for this image doesn't exist. Let's see what's going on. I'm going to get back to images again, and just to confirm that everything over here looks good. /assets/images. Oh, I think I missed default. /default. Yep, I missed that. Let's check this out. Oh, good. There you go. The image is coming in right now. So all we just need to do is reduce the size of the image because it seems like it's a little bit too big for what we want it for. I'm just going to give it a class of width should be 33 and height should be 20. Objects should be cover. And then I want you to have a rounded LG. Good. After you've done that, we save. And now we should see something that looks like this. All right, guys, that is it. So as you can see, it's beginning to come in very well. Let's go ahead and create the title and also every other thing that we need. Below the image tag, I'm going to have a new div. And in this new div, I'm going to have a h4 that's going to be the example article title. example article title. And below that, I'm going to have a new div that's going to hold a p tag, that will hold an I tag, that will have class FAS FA-I. And this one is going to be 123 views. Very good. I think for now, I just need only the views. And below here, I'm going to have button. So this button is going to be an icon that says FAS FA-trash, because it's a bookmarked post, which means we want to be able to trash it, right? Now, when you save this, we should have something that looks like this, but it doesn't really look good. So let's style it out. Okay, the div that's holding the image and the views, we actually need to give that div a class of flex. Then we say items dash center, so that you can see how everything is going to look right now. Let me save. Then you see this is now sitting side by side because of flex. Then we need a gap 3 because we don't have a space over here. So we need that space. Now you should see a space. Good. And then we need a background. So I'm going to say BG, and here we say hash 0808 0808 1A. Then let me show you how the background is going to look. See that? Very light background. And then I just need a padding tree so that we'll be written space in there. And I also want it to be rounded LG. And finally, margin at the top and bottom should be 5. So now, let's see. There you go. Looks very, very okay to me. All right, guys, that is pretty much it. So this is what I want. So after you've styled that, I think I need a space between the I need a space between this views here and this one. I also need a space between the example article that's showing up there. So what you need to do is over here in the div that's below the image, just give it a class of space dash y dash 2 so that we can actually see some space show up here. Good. Can you see that? And after you've done that, that should be it. Let's style the div that's holding up the p tag and the button. Just give it a class name and say flex, and justify should be between, and finally items should be center, and I need gap 3. So right now it should look something like this. There you go. Let's style the p tag. I don't really like how it's looking. So for the p tag, I'm gonna say class should be text sm, and I want it to be text gray 400. Very good. And let me show you how it's going to look right now. See? Let's also style the trash icon. So our trash button should be class bg red 200, text red 600. Padding on the x and x axis, which is the left and the right, should be 3. Padding at the top and bottom should be 2. And I want it to be rounded SM. So the rounded should be small. And whenever we hover, I want it to have a text red of 700. Now let me show you how it looks. I made a mistake here. This should be text red of 600. So this is how it's looking. Now when you hover, we have this. Can you see that? Very good, very good, very good. That's everything that I want over here. So we have just 2 more divs that we need to style, which are these divs over here that we haven't styled. Below this div that has the class of flex, item, space, and mt6, just this one down here, I'm going to give it a grid, and I'm just going to say flex 1 and gap 2. Now, what this is going to do is make sure that our article is taking up the full width over here. So flex 1 is going to take any available space that was left and make sure that the content in there is stretching out to fill up that whole space. Then gap 2 is just going to add a gap between all the articles that we will be having below. Okay. Now, I'm doing this because we will be able to actually scroll over here. That means let's add the scrolling feature. I'm going to say overflow Y should be auto, overflow Y auto. Then I'm going to say max height should be 20 rem. So max height 20 rem. So guys, this last one here should just have a key of 1. So now, whenever you copy this particular style that we have and duplicates, let's see what we have. Save your code. Now, can you see? Once the height exceeds 20 rem, we can now scroll in here. Can you see? Looks very good. So yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. I think the only thing that's missing is this here. I'm going to make this width to be full. The one that has the space. Y2. I'm going to make the width to be full. So everything looks good. If you want this icon to come over here, like to go to the extreme, you just need to locate this div that has space Y2 and say, hey, I want you to take the full width, which means this icon, because we've given it justify between, will automatically go to the extreme. Now, when you save, let's see, come here. Good. So that's what you need to do for every other duplicates that you have. But I'm going to just remove the duplicates for now. I don't really need that much. Just one is okay for me. All right, guys, that is pretty much it. So with that, we are done with bookmark. When you click, you open up a bookmark and yup, that's pretty much it. So with this now, let's go ahead and work on the next thing, which is going to be the, I think we should work on the search. Yeah, let's work on the search. So for the search, it's going to be quite easy since we've already created the bookmark. All you just need to do is copy this dialog here and duplicate it. I'm going to copy this dialog, duplicate, and just change up a couple of things. For example, this should be search, and we're going to have an input. So in the dialog header here, instead of having this text, we're going to have an input instead. That's going to search. So I should say placeholder should be enter a keyword. Before we continue, let's just make sure that everything is working well. There you go. Click on this. Now we have an input. Click on this, the bookmark. But I don't like the way this is spreading out. That really doesn't look good to me. So what you need to do is wrap the two dialogues in a div. Wrap the two dialogue in a div, and let's see what we have. Good. Can you see that? Now the div that you've used to wrap the two dialogue, you could go ahead and give the div a flex and also give it a gap of 4 and also give it an items center. And you should see a gap showing up there. Very, very good. So let's go ahead and style out this input. Let's make sure that we're looking at the input while styling it out. So I'm going to get down here and give it a class. And I want the border to be 1 pixel long. And also the border color should be hash 0b0 b24. And I want the background of the input to be hash 080.080.81a. And I want it to have a rounded LG and also a PY2. Outline should be 0. Outline should be 0. Focus should be, okay, let me show you guys how this is going to look before we actually style the focus. So when you save now, see how it's looking now, yeah? Well, I want to add a focus so that when we click on this, I want a ring to show up over here, kind of like an outline. So when it's focused, which is when we are typing something, I want the ring to be indigo 500. Very good. And I want the ring to be 2 pixels wide, or rather thick, not wide. I'm going to say ring should be 2. And px should be 2 also. I need a space at the left and right. So now you will see that when we focus, we see that you can see that indigo border showing up over there. Very good, guys. That's pretty much it. Let's change up the placeholder text. So to style placeholder in TailwindCSS, all you need to say is call the placeholder and say the text should be small. And I also want the text of whatever we are typing into the input. Its color should be 7070b2. 7070b2. And that's it. We should be done. So now we can see this. Good. So whenever we type, that's what we have. All right, guys, that's pretty much what I want. So let's make sure that the articles actually look fine as expected. Below the dialog header, we have this div that has the space x2 here. And we also have this grid flex one. Below the grid flex one, create a h1 tag and say 3 articles found, because it's a search system, yeah, which means when we search for something, we show how many articles that we found, that was found, and then we display the article down here. Very, very good. Very, very nice. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think the only thing that we need to do here is this is supposed to have, oh yeah, it does have item center. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. That looks good to me. So that's pretty much it, guys. We now have a search system, and also we have a bookmarked system. Very good. Can you see how we created modal using shardcn? Quite simple. It's quite straight to the point, but then you need a little bit of technicality to be able to get it to work as you want it to. All right. So we're almost coming to the end of the header. That's almost it for the header. We're almost done. So the last thing that we need to do is create a sidebar for the header. That's because when we see this on mobile, you can see how it's looking right now. We need a way to actually get a sidebar on the mobile. And to do that, we will use something called sheets in shardcn. So over here, I'm going to search for sheets, and there you go, sheets. So don't think that we're actually using shardcn for everything here. Nope, we're only using shardcn for the interactive things. After this, I don't even think we were going to use shardcn anymore. I think this is the only place where we used a lot of shardcn. After this, we are done. We'll just start writing our custom Tailwind. So after you've done that, go ahead and import this. So just copy everything that we have over here and import it at the top. And after you've pasted, pause this to install. Pause install. And then you can see how they recommend that we use the sheets over here. But don't worry, I'm going to write my own code so that everyone can understand and follow along. So let's see. Below the div that's holding the dialog. Let's see. Just hold on. Let me see what's going on. So below this div that's holding the dialog, just down here, we need, I believe that we need, okay, it should be inside here. Yeah, there should be a link like this. This link is going to have a href, okay? So just hold on. After we create this link, then we will go ahead and work with the sheet, which is the sidebar, okay? Let's style this up. But before we style it up, let's just say login and add an I tag, FA-sign in alt, and then I'm going to say MS1. Good. So saving this now let's see what we have. We should see a login button show up here. Oops, I think we have an error. Let's see what the problem is. You say found is not defined. Okay. Oh, it's turned into a component and there's no component like found. Please, it should be a text, okay? When you've made it a text, I think this should work now. Can you see this login? We need to style it up and make it look real good. So over here, let's style up the class. So I'm going to say class name should be bg gradients to right. And then from indigo 500 to pink 500. So to pink 500. Good. And also over here, I'm going to make sure that it is indigo 500 and not indigo 50. And after you've done that, I want the cursor to be pointer and the text should be 15px large. And I want the font weight to be bold. So I'm going to say font dash bold. I want a padding, kind of like a breathing space at the left and at the right. So I'm going to say px should be 6. And also py should be 3. And I'm going to say rounded, which means the border radius should be 50%. I don't want any border, so I'm going to say border 0. And I want a space at the end to be 3. So with this now, you can see our button looking like this. Very good. So that's how we want everything to be. Looks pretty nice to me. The only thing that's left is the sheets. So let's make this work. Now, remember that on the, we need to choose the things that we actually want to see on the mobile. Yep, we should see this on the mobile. We should also see this on the mobile. I don't want to see this login on the mobile. It should be in the sidebar. So let's hide it. That means over here in our code, we will say hidden by default, but then on the large screen, show it by saying flex, which means we should not see it over here anymore. Gone, but here we can see it. Good. All right, guys, that's it. Let me go ahead and collapse these two dialogues that we have over here. I'm collapsing this and this. I just need one more for the sheets. Okay, so for the sheets, I'm gonna, okay, we've imported the sheets. Let's just go ahead and write the code for it. All right, so we can do that just below the login link, and this one here is gonna be sheets, and then in the sheets we're gonna have one called sheets trigger. So sheets trigger. And then in the sheets trigger, there's going to be an I that will be class FA dash bars. I want the size to be text 2XL and ME3. All right, very good. So with this now, if you save and get back here. So with this now, if you save and get back here, you can now see something that looks like that. Please, this should be ME3, not MS. ME3. I need the margin at the end. Good. That's what I wanted. All right. So below the sheets trigger, we need to create a sheet content. So sheets content. And in the sheets content, we need to have a sheet header. Sheet header. And the sheet header is going to have a sheet title. And the sheet title is just going to say bloggy, just like that. Let's see what we have. So now when you click on this, can you see? It's beginning to open up the sheets. As simple as that, guys. You see how we create things easily. All right, that is it. So this sheet here, we need to style it up. Let's see. If we say BG red 500, does it change up the color of the sheets? I'm just trying to experiment over here. Well, it doesn't change up the color of the sheets. Okay, good. Don't worry. We'll style this up as we continue. So for the sheet contents, remove this 500. For the sheet content, that is where we actually need to do the styling. So I'm going to give it a style of BG should be hash 07050D. 07050D. It should have a border, and the border should be dash hash 110C1F. I also want it to be text dash white. Good. So with this now, if you get back here and open up the sheets, it should look something like, it should look like this. See that? But then the text is not showing. So let's make that work. So the sheet title should have a text of white. Okay. But then this text white here is actually supposed to make it work. Why is it not working? I don't think everything has properly synced in. Maybe that's why we can't actually see it work. But then you can just give that one a text dash white and it should still work. All right. So let's confirm that. See, it's working. Okay, so that's it. Let's go ahead and create some ULs in the sheets header. So I'm going to create a UL over here, and I'm going to create an LI in the UL. And this LI is just going to have an A tag in it. This A tag is going to have two things. The very first one is going to be an icon. So you could create an I tag if you want in here. It's up to you how you want it. Oh, that should be down here, guys. That should be in here, okay? So I'm going to say class FAS FA dash home, FAS FA dash home. And then we need the second thing, which is going to be the text. So that should be in a span. And I'm going to say dashboard. Then save this. And let's see what we have. So getting back here, you can see dashboard. We just need to style it up because it doesn't really look good. I'm going to say MS3 and space Y7. Good. Let's also style up the A tag. I'm going to give the A tag a class name of flex items center gap 3, and we should be done. So this should look better now. There you go. So all we just need to do is duplicate this li and change up the text. So we say duplicate, 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 and then change up the text that we have over here. So one is going to be dashboard. You could have things like maybe articles. It's up to you what you want to name them. Okay. And we could have maybe profile and settings. So I'm just giving you this, just play around with it and, do what you want with it. Change up the icons. This one is going to be gear. This one is going to be user. This one is going to be what can we work with? Let's just see book. Okay, let's see what we have. All right, there you go. So right now we have a working sidebar. Can you see? When you come over to the desktop, the sidebar is, oops, it's still there. We don't want it to be there. So let's hide it. You see the sheets? This sheet should be hidden on the large screen. So say large screen hidden. Good. I don't want to see it there on the large screen. So this should be gone. Okay, for some reason, I don't think it's going. So what you just need to do is take this LG hidden and put it in the sheets trigger instead. I believe that's where it should be. So you see, it's gone. Now it will only be visible in the mobile. You can see we have this. And when you open this up, it's gone. And everything looks very sweet and fantastic. All right, guys, that's pretty much it. This is working perfectly well as I expected. That's basically what I want. So we need to work on the footer and we should be done with this module, or with this part rather. Then the next one will get started building the landing page. So for the footer, it should be quite simple and easy and straight to the point because we will just be duplicating a couple of texts. Let's get back to our code. So I'm opening up the footer JSX and I'm going to remove this. And in here, I'm going to have a section keyword. So this section is going to hold another div, and this div is going to hold a h1 that says bloggy. Okay. And then we need a p tag for our slogan or motto. That's just going to say read, write, learn. Read, write, learn. Very good. And then we need a div that's going to hold some icons. So the very first icon that I need over here is the Facebook icon. So I'm going to say class FABFA- Facebook. That's FA brand. Okay. And then you need to duplicate this. But before we duplicate, I think we need to style this. PX3, PY2, BG should be hash 705D, 705D, 7052 rather, then D0. Then we'll say text dash white. Also we'll say rounded LG. Good. So after we've done this, let's see how the footer is looking. So over here, we can see this showing up. All right, that's good. I'm going to duplicate this in 4 places. Or I think 3 is enough. And just change this up. This one should be Instagram. This one should be Twitter. Yeah, that should be it. So now we can see this showing up here. Good. Okay, the div that's holding it, let's style up the div that's holding it and say flex items center. And I want it to have a gap 3 and also an empty 5. Good. The H1, I'm going to say class texts 3XL, also font bold. And this p tag over here, I'm going to give it a class of text-gray 400. And width should be 70%. So width 70%. Good. So let's see how this is looking now. You can see something that looks like this. All good, all good, all good. All right. So after you've done that, let's style the main section itself so that it looks good. I'm going to say, hey, section should be on the large screen, PX should be 33. On the small screen, PX should be 5. On the large screen and the small screen, PY should be 10. Margin between the top and bottom should be 20. and margin top explicitly should be 30 because I want the footer to go all the way to the bottom. And I also want to have a border top, and the color of this border top should be something like gray 800. Good. Let's see what we have. So there you go. That's it. All right. So when you're done with that, that's pretty much what we want to do. Let's just get down here and create a new div. Now this div is just going to have a h4, and this h4 is going to say company. This company should have a particular style. So there should be a class. Text should be just 1XL, and I want the font to be bold. And I'm going to say text -gray -100 and capitalize everything and say MB2 so that it looks like this down here. Good. Can you see that? So I'm just styling the text. And after you've done that, below it, we need a P tag that is going to hold an A tag. And the A tag is going to be the first one, about us. And if you want to style it up, you just need to say text -gray 400, text gray 400, text SM. Good. And all you just need to do is duplicate this P tag. So paste, 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 paste. And we are done. Move this. So now we should see something that looks like this. Very good. But I want you to be at the side here. So for that, let's style this div that's holding hold on. Let's see. There is a section, then there is a div. This div holds the bloggy and all this other thing. Oh, there is supposed to be a main div that holds everything else. That is not the section, okay? So this main div is what we need to style. We need to give it a flex. But on the large screen, it should be flex row. But on the small screen, it should be flex col. Justify between. And then we need a gap of 15 on the small screen. But then on the large screen, gap should just be 3. And that should be it. So with this now, you can see it's coming over here. Let's just wait. Good. Can you see that? Justify should be between, not baseline. That's why it's not going all the way to the extreme. So right now, it should come over here. Good. So guys, when you now go ahead and duplicate this, like if you copy this and paste, maybe in 3 places, let's see how it looks. You will see that it looks like this. Maybe one more over here, just to bring everything together. Now you can see something that looks like this. Good. We are done with the footer. Now it's up to you to change up the text and, put up whatever text you want over here. What I'm going to do is just quickly pause the video and then add my own text so that you see how my footer will look. Okay. All right. So I just paused the video to add my own text. And as you can see, company now has all this text in here. Solution has all this text. Same thing for resources. So you can copy mine if you want. On small screen, you can see how it looks. We're looking very, very good and professional. This still works well and everything is looking fine. So that is pretty much it, guys. I know that this video has been really long, but we are building everything from scratch, which means, yep, it's going to be long. Just exercise a little patience if you are really, really willing to learn. And if you really give or pay attention to this tutorial, this should be the only tutorial or the only course that you actually need to take to be able to know how to use Tailwind CSS, Next.js, and Supabase, even ShartCN. For now, that is pretty much it. If there is something that you want, if there is something that you need, let me know. If you have any question, feel free to reach out through the comment section or our discussion thread. Also, you can reach out through our Q&A section or forums or even our support system. You can also contact us via our social media channels. We are actively monitoring them and we'll always be ready to assist you. If you're looking to level up as a developer using professional tools designed to accelerate and simplify your learning, be sure to check out desfix.io. You'll find the link in the description below. And if you're planning to launch a startup and need a team of experienced and professional developers to bring your vision to life, feel free to reach out to us at desfix@gmail.com. We'll schedule a call and learn more about your projects, discuss your goals in detail, and finally explore how we can collaborate to turn your idea into reality. For now, that is pretty much it. I hope to see you in the next one. And until then, mad love. Peace out. Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Destiny from DesFix and welcome back to another video in the series where we are building a full stack blog application using Next.js, TailwindCSS and Supabase. In this one, we'll get started working with the landing page. That is what we'll be working on. Hopefully you will enjoy the video and learn something new. If you're looking to level up as a developer using professional tools designed to accelerate and simplify your learning, be sure to check out desfix.io. You will find the link in the description below. And also, if you're planning to launch a startup and need a team of experienced and professional developers to bring your vision to life, feel free to reach out at desfix@gmail.com. We'll schedule a call to learn more about your projects, discuss your goals in detail, and also explore how we can collaborate to turn your idea into reality. So without any further ado, let's get started. The very first thing we need to do is open up our code editor. And if you followed along with the previous tutorial, then you will know that in the last one, we worked on the header and also we worked on the footer and we configured the layout.js, which is basically a source of truth for our Next.js application. In this one, we will switch gears and actually start working on the landing page. So in the app folder over here, I want you to open up the page.js, and I think I have a lot of tabs opened up here. Let's close up all this. I'll hit Ctrl K W on my keyboard to close up all the tabs here. Then I just want to open up one, which is the page.js. So currently in the page.js, we only have this text that says, "Welcome to my blog." I'm going to get rid of this text. I don't really need it there. And then what we need to create here is a section. Okay, and in this section, we need to have a div that's going to hold a post, one single post. So the post that will be here will be the most popular posts. So the very first thing we'll need in here will be an image tag, and this one is going to take a source. So the very first thing we need to do before we start coding this is to bring in some things that we will be using. Do you remember how we imported images in the header when we worked with the last section? So I will quickly open up my header components and we need to import this, which is default article. So I want to import this in the page.js. And alongside the default article, I will also bring in the default avatar. Let me just get back to that page to confirm that I have the default avatar. Oh, I think we are not bringing it in from the right source. So say // let's get rid of this. So // component / okay, we need to get back again. // component / then we need to grab it from the images here, which means if we hold on Control and click on the default avatar, you can see that it's now taking us to the right place. All right, that's very good. So we have default article and default avatar. Now in the image source, I want you to get rid of this quotes and basically replace it with curly brackets and pass in default article in there as the image source. And that's pretty much what I want to do for now. So below this image, I will have a div that should hold the informations of the posts, like the other informations. So below this div, below the image tag, I'm going to create a div that will hold other informations that belong to the post, like the title, the dates that the post was created, and things like the read time, the views, how many likes that the post have got, and all that. So let's continue. Down here, I will create another div in here. And in this new div, that's where I'm going to have an I tag that will be an umbrella. So I'm going to say umbrella, FA-umbrella. I'm using fonts or some icons here. And the next tag is going to be just a p tag that will hold the name of the category. So for this one, I will just pass in a dummy category for now, a static one, and I'll just call this lifestyle. Okay. Now below this div that holds the category, I'm going to create a new tag, be a h1 tag, and it should just take the name of the article. I'm going to give it example article title. Okay. For now, this is just static and dummy. Now below the H1, I will create a new div, which I believe should be the final div for this particular section. And in this div, we will have an image. This is going to be the image of the author, which is the person that created the post or that wrote the post. So this one is going to be default avatar. And for now, that's just what we want to pass in. We'll work with this later on. And below this, we will have a p tag. This p tag is going to hold the dates when this article was created. So for now, I'm just going to say 5th August. Then let's just say 2025. Yeah, let's work with that. And down here, I'm going to have another p tag that will just hold a dot like that. So those dots over here will just be for demarcation purposes. And finally, we will have one other p tag, which is going to hold how many minutes it's going to take you to read this article. So I'll just say this article will be a 3 minutes read. Good. And we are done. So that's it for the very first one. Now, the next one that we're going to work on is going to be the sidebar of the hero section. But before we even work on the sidebar of the hero section, I highly think that we should style this out so that you can see how it looks. Okay. So let's open up our browser, and the home page should actually not look like this anymore. So let's reload this page. Probably reloading it is going to bring in the changes and everything that we've written in the page.js. All right, there you go. Can you see? This is how it's looking right now. So let's style it, and we should see some things should start coming all together. I'll start with the section, give it a class of, I want it to be a grid, and I want it to have grid columns of 2. Which means we will have 2 posts. So we will sit side by side on it by each other. So let me open up my browser and come over to Excalibur. Remember, I usually use this to explain how the styles will work before I write it down. So let's say that this is our web page, and then we have the first post over here, and then the second post maybe down here like this. When you give the section a class of grid, it automatically means that any item that we have in that particular section can be placed around anywhere in that section. So what we actually did over here was add grid columns to, which means we want those 2 articles to take up the first 2 columns. And whenever there is another article, it's not going to come over here. Rather, it will start from a new line. But then, had it been we gave this a class of grid cols 3, which is grid column 3, which still means, hey, we want all the elements that are in this section. And when I say elements, I mean all the parent elements in this section. We want it to take up 3 grid, which means over here, rather, we want it to take up 3 cols, not 3 grid, which means whenever we have a new post, it will automatically come over here. And what will happen is they will try their best to fit in here perfectly well, like this. Does it make sense? But for now, we don't need that. We need only 2. Hopefully you saw that in the demo, which means this is going to start from a new line, and this will expand to fill up the page. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So that is why we said grid cols 2. And we are giving this grid cols 2 only on the large screen. Let's say that this is our mobile device here. On a mobile device, do you want to have two posts sitting like this, or do you want to have 2 posts that are sitting like this? Which one do you think makes more sense? I highly believe it should be 2 posts that are sitting below each other like this, which means on mobile, we want to say grid cols 1, right? But since we are using Tailwind and not pure CSS, how do we write a media query for that? Now, what we need to say is on large screen, and to write that out, you just need to say LG column. So on large screen, we want the grid columns to be 2. Then on small screen, I know you might be thinking, should we pass in SM, then say grid cols should be 1? Yup, if you say that, you're actually not very far from the truth. But the thing is, Tailwind automatically knows that this should be for the small screen. So you don't really need to pass in the SM, okay? Once you leave this out, provided you've specified that, hey, on the large screen, I want the grid codes to be 2, and then you specified another grid codes here to be 1, Tailwind will automatically take the other grid codes that you have specified and make it to work only on the mobile device. That is why Tailwind is a mobile first approach framework. So with this now, that's pretty much what we want to do over here. Now we need to also give this a gap of 7. In case you don't know what that's going to do, let me explain. So let's say that we had to post like these. By default, this is how they will look. Can you see that they are literally touching each other? When you give it a gap of 7, it will take this over here and bring this over here. Then you immediately see a gap in between them like this. Does that make sense? So that is what gap 7 will do. And after that, we need to add a px of 5. Remember that I say that px basically means padding on the x-axis, which is padding on the left and right, which basically will add breathing space to the left and to the right of the section. So let me explain using xCalibur. Let's say that we had to post like this. Remember that right now they have gap. They have this gap 7, which means that we have a space at the in between the two of them. Now, if you're giving it a px5, which is padding x5, it will add a padding to the left and also to the right. If you're giving it a py5, it will add a padding to the top and to the bottom. So that means over here, it will now look like this, and also it will look like this. Does that make sense? And by default, this is also going to look okay. It's actually not going to come down like this till you have explicitly specified a py for it. So if you say something like py5, then there's going to be a padding at the top and also a padding at the bottom. Very good. Now, I also want to give this section a margin y of 20. So margin y 20 basically means, hey, we want to give a margin on the y-axis 20. And this 20 is the same thing as 80px, okay, or 5rem. Now, all we just need to do is, okay, let me explain what this is before we continue. So my basically means, hey, we want a margin at the top and at the bottom of the section. Let's say that we had 2 sections that were like this. Let me show you. So I'm trying to highlight these things. Let's say that we had 2 sections like this, and maybe even another one like this. As soon as you give it a my of 20, it will automatically space this around. So it will take this, bring it down, and it will also take this one, take it up. Now you can see that we will have some spaces here. That means it has automatically added the margin at the at the y-axis, not the x, which means we now have a space at the top and also at the bottom, a margin rather. But had it been what you gave it was padding, the space will not be outside the section, it will be inside the section. If you've studied CSS box model, then you will know that padding is used to add breathing space inside an element, but margin is used to add a breathing space outside an element. In case you don't really know how CSS works and you're looking to actually get into the groove of CSS, I have a full 6-hour CSS course. Link will be in the description below, or you can check out deskfix.io. Either way, I'm going to drop the link to all the courses that I've mentioned in this course in the description below. Okay, so check that out. Yep, that's pretty much it for the my20. Now that we're done with this, let's move over to the first div that we have here. Now, this very first div should have a class of relative, and it should also have a height of 40 rem like this. So let me explain what that's going to do. Remember that we have this first div here, which is this one that we are working on right now. Please don't put your mind here, because currently we don't have this. I was just using this for illustration purposes. That's why I'm going to reduce its opacity so that it looks faded like that. Good. So right now we give this a position relative and a height 40 rem. Height 40 rem will just increase or decrease the height. You can play around with this to get what you want. So the height 40 rem will basically be used to actually adjust the height, maybe make it smaller or maybe make it larger, depending on what you want. And now for the position relative and absolute, because we'll be working with this throughout this tutorial, let me explain what this will do. So I want you to imagine a bunch of toys on the floor. Now, let's say that you want to move one toy around just a little bit. For example, imagine this as a toy. Let's say you want to move it to the left or to the right, but just a little bit, like this. That's kind of what relative and absolute will do in CSS. They basically help you move stuff around on your web page. And in case you don't understand that, let's break it down so that you better understand. Starting with position relative. When you give an element the class of position relative, or maybe the attribute of position relative, it's like saying, hey, I am normally here, like this is my natural habitat, but then let me shift a little bit. So let me explain what that means. So let's say that we have this invisible div that's covering and wrapping everything like this, which is the red one. And then you give it a position relative. What you're trying to say is, hey, this particular card, I want it to move, but it shouldn't really go far. It shouldn't like leave this box. Maybe you should just play around here like this. That is what giving position relative mean. So think of it as a toy sitting on a spot, and you say, move just a little to the right, and it moves a little to the right and maybe a little to the left. The toy will move, but it still remembers where it came from. And other toys will still think that it's in the old spot. Do you understand? So imagine just moving this a little bit to the left. That's position relative. It's moved, but then this other section won't really know that this one moved. Okay, now let's talk about position absolute, because that's actually what really brings in the relative and make it work perfectly well. So when you give an element position absolute, you're kind of like telling that element that it should be able to float to anywhere it wants. So it's kind of like a flying toy that doesn't care about where it was originally. It can go to anywhere. So you can pick this toy up, and before I continue, you should know that position relative will be applied to the parent. For example, this one here is the parent. I'm trying to write that out, but it's not really working. Yeah, let's just leave that out. So this div over here, this black one, maybe I should give it a background color so that you can see it better. This green div is the parent. And let's say for some reason we have some informations in here, maybe some text or maybe some other components inside here, and let me give them a background color too, so that we can understand what's going on. Now, if you're giving this green one a position relative, this once in here, the informations inside the div is what you should give a position absolute. So giving either of this position absolute is kind of like telling it, hey, I want you to go to anywhere I am going to take you to, or anywhere that I'm going to send you to. So you can do something like, hey, take this stuff and push it all the way to this other section over here. It doesn't remember that it was here originally, but the relative does. But it can go to anywhere that it wants here in the web page. It could even leave the first section and come all the way to the second section, and it will work perfectly well. That's basically what position relative does. That rather position absolute, not relative. But relative doesn't really need to move that far. If you're going to move relative as far as this, you're better off giving the relative to a much more higher element like the red div here, and then giving this green one position absolute. That is if you wanted to move all the way to another section or maybe even out of the web page. But normally, position relative shouldn't really move that much. You should just move a little bit. But then position absolute can go to anywhere you want it to go to. That's basically what it does. So over here, we've given this position relative, which means some of this data that we have in this parent element, we have position absolute. Does all this even make sense at all? If it doesn't, let me know in the comment section. Maybe I'll just write down something for you to better understand. And I would highly recommend that you work with Desfix tutorial with step, because everything that I've talked about in this course have been laid out there step by step in a written guide. So if for any reason I'm too fast for you, or maybe I'm too slow for you, you can use the Desfix tutorial with step tool to follow the course at your own pace and at your own time. Okay. All right, let's continue styling this. Enough talking. I gave this a relative and a height of 40. Let's style the image. I'm going to give it a class name of And by the way, before I forget, since we are working with Next.js, we shouldn't really use this image tag over here to initialize images. That is because Next.js provided this custom image tag for us. Let me bring it in. So import it from next/image. Oh, I think it's already here. And then we should use that instead of this one here. So just replace this image tag with this. And if you're asking, so what's the difference between the very first one that we were using and this one? Now, remember how I initially said in the last part of this tutorial that for some reason, Next.js is a little bit slow during development. That doesn't mean that it's slow during production, but during development, it's slow. Now, to speed things up, there are some little tweaks that Next.js has provided on the that Next.js did provide on the documentation that we could use to, make things run a little bit faster. One of those are using their own image tag. So it's not difficult. It's very simple. Just bring in the image tag and replace it with your normal HTML image tag. Source remains, class name remains, alt remains. You could just give this alt maybe a name. Just say something like image title or whatever you want in there. Now for the class, let's give this a width full. I want you to take the full width of the parent element. Let me explain what width full will do so that you understand. Now, let's say that this yellow thing here is an image. And when we added this image, it was like this. Let's say this image was like this. As soon as you give this image a width full, maybe you might be thinking that it will now make it to be as full as this. Nope. Do you remember that I said that width full will just make the image to take the full length or the full width of its parent element, which means it's going to take the full width of this green container over here. You understand? If it was like this initially, it will now become like this, taking its full width. And also, I'm going to say height should be full. I believe that you should already catch the drift of what height full will do. So over here, height full is just going to bring this down like this. Yep. Does that make sense? And after you've done that, let's also give it an object cover. So for some reason, an image might be really, really long, or maybe really, really short, or maybe it has a very long width or a very short width. But then when you specify a certain width and height for that image, it will automatically distort that image. That is where using an object property comes to play. Giving it an object cover, we basically say, hey, if this image initially had a very long width and we shrink that width to something like this, we don't want to distort the image. The image should not be pixelated. It should still have its normal pixel and it shouldn't look blurry or maybe look a little bit squished. Nope, we don't want anything like that. We want it to retain its original pixel. That is basically what this object cover will do over here. Good. Another thing that we need is a rounded XL. Have you worked with border radius in CSS before? If you've worked with border radius in CSS, it's the same thing here in Tailwind. So rounded XL basically means, hey, we want this to be border radius. I think that should be 4px if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Or 0.25 rem. Yes. So saying rounded px is kind of like saying border radius 0.25 rem or 4px. Now we have a lot of this. We have 2XL, we have 3XL. I think we also have 4XL. Or you could even add your own custom value by putting in a bracket, a square bracket to be precise, and then passing in your own value in here. Maybe 20px or maybe 20 rem, depending on what you want. All right, I'm going to stick to rounded XL. And then finally, we need to give this image a class of absolutes. Okay, so we give it an absolute class. In case you're asking, remember that I say that absolute is kind of like telling an element that it can float to anywhere that it wants over here. So if you are giving this image tag an absolute, that means it can go to anywhere, left, right, top, bottom, back, or front. So what we're going to do is we take this image and we take it a little bit to the back. That's what we're going to do so that we can actually write texts on this image. And then you can also see the text. So let's say we had dark text like this. So this is what we're trying to do. Initially, without giving this a position absolute, this text will be forced to come to a new line. Okay, but then as soon as you give it a position absolute, this over here can now go to anywhere. So what we are saying is, what we want to do is take this and retain it in this position, take it a little bit to the back so that a text can sit on top of it, kind of like overlay on it like this. Does that make sense? So that's why we're giving it this absolute over here. All right, very good. Let's continue with the next one. This one also, I want to give it absolutes. Oh, I didn't add the class. So I'm going to give this a class of absolutes. I believe I've explained this, so I'm not going to go through it again. And we need to give this a background of 0b0 21 bdb, and also width full. I believe I've also explained what width full we do. Now we need to give this a bottom of 0. So let me explain what that's going to do. Remember how I said that with position absolute, you can take it to anywhere that it wants. Now remember that this cvvv text over here has a position absolute. Let's give it a title. So let's say something like how to become a web developer in 2025. And then I just want to break it down so that it looks something like that, and then put it somewhere here. And let's say that we even have another one, which is going to be like the name of the author by Destiny Franks. And maybe this one is a little bit smaller like this. Good. So by saying bottom 0, where did we add that here? What it will do is it will automatically take this item, which is in the div, and take it all the way to the bottom. That's what bottom 0 will do. Had it been we said something like right 0, it will take it all the way to the right like this. Does that make sense? So right 0, bottom 0, we bring it down like this. Left 0, we take it all the way to the left. Top 0, we bring it all the way to the top. Now, if you want to add your own custom value, maybe you want to bring it to the middle, you can now say something like left 0, it's come over here. You say right 0, it's come over here. Then you say the margin X should be automatic, which is the margin at the left and at the right should be automatically decided. That will automatically split the margin evenly, hence bringing this to the center. So there are lots more things that goes into using position absolute and relative. That is why I would highly recommend that you check out our full CSS masterclass course. That's over 6 hours long. Link will be in the description below. So what we did was say bottom 0. That just brought us to the bottom like this. That's why we added this. Then we also want to give it a backdrop blur of MD. So backdrop, then we say it actually should be backdrop dash blur MD. Have you seen this glass morphism effects before? That's actually trending, where it seems like there is a text that's sitting on a glass, and any element that goes behind that particular element becomes a little bit blurred out. Let me show you. So this is basically what a glass morphism effect looks like. You can see that this I don't know what this color is, but you can see that as soon as it went behind this glass-like stuff, it started looking a little bit blurry. This is not a little bit, it's actually a lot. And you can see that the same thing happened for this, and the same thing also happened for this. So that's what we are trying to recreate using TailwindCSS. I'm going to get rid of this and get back to Excalibur. Okay. So by saying backdrop blur MD, we're automatically making all this div over here to automatically become a glass morphism, which means anything that stays behind this glass or behind this element will be blurred out. Good. And the next thing after this is to play around with its border radius. I'm going to say rounded should be XL and padding 3. Remember how PX will add a padding at the left and right, and PY we add a padding to the top and bottom. P without the Y, the X, or the Z will automatically add a padding to the top, left, bottom, and right. So that's why we did this. So I think 3 is equal to 12px. Yeah. So we are saying padding should be 12px. That's why we added 3 over here. If you don't want to use the tree, you can still add your own custom value by creating a square bracket and putting in whatever you want in there. I'm going to say 12px, and this is the same thing. All right, that is pretty much it. Now, there's one more thing that I want to do. Okay, for now, let's just leave that out and see how our page is even looking. I think we've actually done a lot without looking at the results. So let's see what we have. Seems like we have an error. Okay, let's see what's the problem. It says in HTML, button cannot be a descendant of button. This will cause a hydration error. So what's going on? So we'll look into this error later, but then when you come over to the third error that we are getting over here, it says image with source this is missing a required width property. Remember that I said that Tailwind, rather Next.js gave us their own custom image tag. We need to be able to pass in the properties that are required. For example, the width property is required, and also the height property is also required. So you could just say width 100, height 100. This value, the values that we have in here doesn't really matter since we are already explicitly defining a height and a width here in the class. So you just need to pass this in to make sure that your application is not breaking. After you've done that, go ahead and save, and let's see what we have here. All right, this looks good. I think the only problem that we have is that this profile image is looking way too large. Let's actually bring that into subjection. So I'm going to say class, and we should give, we could just give it a width of 8 and a height of 8. Since it's a profile image, it shouldn't be really big. It should be something like this. Can you see that? Something like this. And can you see how our page is starting to look? This looks pretty good. Now with this, we can actually style out every other thing, and you see how it works. So let's get back to the div that is above the div that has the class morphism effect. I want to style the div that's holding the category. So I'm going to give that one a class of, let's give it a class of flex, which means that the umbrella and the lifestyle will automatically stay on the same line. So giving it a flex means that you make the container to become a flexible container. But the default display of a flex box is to add a flex row to the item. That is why as soon as you give it a flex, you will see that it immediately stays on the same line. Let's see that. Can you see? But then if you want to explicitly play around with this, you can pass in maybe flex col or flex row, depending on what you want to add. Flex row, we will just make it sit horizontally, side by side. Flex col, we make it sit vertically below each other, kind of like stacking on top. Okay, but if you're going to do this, you're better off using maybe a display block to make it work. But if you want to explicitly work with flex, maybe you want to use the justify, content center, item center, and properties like that, then feel free to use the flex. All right, I'm going to get rid of the flex col. I don't really need that for now. I just want to get the item stash center. And I also need to add a gap of 2. I believe I've explained that. And I want the background to be indigo 500. I want the width to be auto. So width auto means that this div over here will automatically take the width of the parent element, which is this one that has this width full. That's what width auto will do. And then I also need to make the text in there to be small. So this lifestyle text and also this umbrella, I don't want it to be too large. So I'm going to say text XS. Text XS is the font size, where XX is equal to 12px, okay, or 0.75 rem. So text XS. And I also need ME2. I've explained what this will do. It will add a margin at the end of this element, which means over here we will see some space. We will see like let's see what is 2 there. That's 8px. So we'll see 8px worth of space over here at the left. That's what this will do. Good. after we've done that, the last thing is just to make it a rounded full. Rounded full is the same thing as saying border radius should be 50%, which means it will be rounded like a circle. After you've done this, let's save and see what we have. Okay, this is what we have. So this is happening because the p tag is a block level element, which means we need to make everything in this div to become an inline level element. Instead of just giving it a class of flex, we need to give it a class of inline flex, inline dash flex. So this means change this element and everything in it to become inline level element while still giving it a display of flex. Good. So now when we save, it should work. Here you go. Can you see? It's now working. Yep, that's pretty much what I want. I think the only thing that we might be missing is a padding in there because it doesn't really look good to me. So I'm going to say P1, then we save, and let's see what we have. All right, that looks very, very good. So with that, let's style the example and every other thing that we have, and we should be done. So getting over to the H1 tag, I'm going to give it a class name of, then I'm going to say text 3XL font -bold, and I also want to give it a drop shadow of large. So a drop shadow is kind of like saying text shadow. Okay, you know the way we just add shadow over here. This time around, I want to give a shadow to all the elements that we have in here. Not elements. Let's say characters instead. I want to give a shadow to all the characters that we have in here. If you just say shadow LG, you will give a large ugly shadow to the whole H1. But then if you want to give the shadow to each character, you need to use drop dash shadow dash LG, and it's going to add a text shadow to all the characters that we have there. Okay, after that, that's pretty much what we want to do. Let's see how it's looking. Good, this looks fine. So let's style the div that's holding the image, the dates that the post was created, and how many minutes that this post will cost us if we are to read it. So for that div, we want everything to sit side by side. So we will say flex, and then items center, and I want to give it a gap of 4, and then font dash semi-bold. I don't think I've explained what items center will do. Let me explain that so that you don't have a problem when you see me write that in the future. Let's say that we add a div that's holding 2 elements, like this title and this name. When you give this a display flex, this will automatically come to the side like this and sit at the top level. By giving it item center, what you're saying is, hey, I want this first one and this one to be aligned like this. Can you see? Everything is now sitting vertically like this. Can you see? Let me bring this down a little bit so that you can better understand. Like this. But initially, it was like this. But when you say item center, this gets here. Hopefully you can see that. All right, so that's what we've just done here. Let's style the image. I'm gonna take this one and replace it with this one here. Just change the default article to default avatar. And then for the height and width, remember that we gave it a width of 8 and height of 8. So remember to change that. Width 8, height 8. Object cover, rounded should be full because we want it to be round since it's an avatar. And after you've done that, let's style the dates, which is the p tag. And do we even really need a style for that? Let's see how it currently looks. Save your code and let's see. I don't think I actually need any style for that. This looks good, but then I think I need a space between the category, the title, and the log data. So for that, we need to get down here, this main div here, and we need to give it a space y3, space y3, and then save. So now you should see a space between this, and this. In case you don't understand, let me explain what that will do. So I have a lot of things here right now. So let me get to a new fresh page. Good, this works for me. let's say we had divs like this. When you give them a space Y, remember that Y is the top and bottom, or top to bottom, or bottom to top. Just remember that Y goes like this, or like this. But then X actually goes like this. Don't forget that. So when you give this a space Y3, we are saying, hey, add a space to the Y axis of all the elements that we have inside that particular div. So that means this will come over here, this will come over here, hence giving it this space that we can see. Okay, let me get rid of all this and get back to my code. So yeah, that's pretty much it. This looks fine. This is what I wanted. But then I think the main section must be missing some things because it doesn't really have the padding that I want to add to it. So let's get back and say this px5 should only be on the mobile. On the large screen, I want the px to be 33. We save, we get back here. Now that's looking very fine. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the very first card. We'll get started with the other cards, and it will basically almost be the same thing with this. And I've also explained most of the classes that we'll be using. So moving forward, I will just write down the classes and I won't dwell much on explaining what they will do, because I've explained what most of the classes that we will be using will actually do. For any reason you don't understand what a particular class is doing, I would highly recommend that you rewind the video a little bit, or you better still head over to Tailwind's documentation, type whatever class you want, and Tailwind is going to give you a detailed explanation of what the class does and how to use it. Yep, that's it. Let's get started with the next one. All right, so for the next div, get down below the first div and create another one. And in this one, we will have a link because it will redirect us to a post. Yeah, this link needs to have a href, or Next.js is going to yell at you because that's required. And then you also need to make sure that you're importing that link. So say import link from next link. And in that link, we need a div. And in this div, we need a Next.js image tag. So say image like this. And note it should be a self-closing image tag that should have a width. It's compulsory, 100, and also a height, 100. And it should also have a source of default article. Very good. For now, I'm going to give it a class name and give it some width and also some height. So I'm going to say width should be full and also height should be full. I believe you know what this will do by now. I explained this in-depthly in the previous tutorial. And then I also need to give it an object cover. And I also need to give it a rounded XL. Rounded dash XL. Good. After you've done this, below the image, there will be a div. That's below that image tag. There's going to be a div. And in that div, there will be another div. And in that one, there's going to be an I tag, which will be for the category. So FAS, FA- umbrella. And then in it, there's going to be a P tag. And in this P tag, that's where we'll have the category title. So for now, I'm just going to say lifestyle. Good. Below that, we will have a H1. I think we had something like this here. So I'm going to take these two things and just paste it down here. H1 has text. This one should be text1 XL. Should still be font bold. And let's remove all this. Okay. This one should have the author of the article. So for this one, I'm going to say by Destiny Franks. And we just need the read time. Remove this dot over here. We don't need that. And guys, with that, we are done. Now let's style. So over here, I need like a main div that's going to wrap everything there. Good. That main div is going to have a class of grid. Remember what that will do. And it's going to have grid equals 2. Remember what that will do. And with that now, let's style this other div that's holding the link. So Or instead, let's just style the div that's inside the link. So that first div inside the link is just going to have a relative. Remember, I've explained this, and it's going to have a height of 300 pixels. 300 pixels. And then it will also have a width of full, and then it will have border 1. Border 1 means I want the border width to be 1 pixels, and I want the color of the border to be #5245, then C647, C647. Good. And after you've done that, let's also give it a rounded Excel. So rounded Excel, and let's see what we currently have. All right, this is what we currently have right now. Let's go ahead and style up this one over here, because I want to take this text and put it on this image, after which we'll then go ahead and style it out. So guys, what we are trying to do now is take this text that we have over here and put it on this image. Then we want to make just some section of the image a little bit blurry, so that, or not even really blurry, like a little bit dark, so that this text that will be on this image somewhere here will actually show up. So in case you don't understand, let me open up my Excalibur and describe this in a visual representation so that you can better understand. So let's say that we have something that looks like this as the product card here, and then maybe we have some text. Let me see if I can grab some text, or let me just type it out. I'm going to say something like example article title. I know I didn't spell article correctly. And let's say that we had other text like this, and maybe a text was here too, and so on. Now currently this is how they are sitting here. If you look at all this here, this looks almost identical to what we have here. Good. Forget about the text and every other thing that we have. So what we're trying to do is take this two, which is this example article that we have, and then we want to put it down here like this. Now, if you're putting it down here and there is an image in the background, it will definitely overlap with the image. So that is why what we want to now do is create like another small background like this. Let me show you what I'm trying to do. Then we'll reduce the opacity, make it dark. I'm going to make this color should be black like this, and then I'm going to put it at the back of everything. Good. This one will be white. Let me change it up to white. So this is what we're trying to do, make this to be very faint. And I don't really know if Excalibur has it, but then the top over here is not going to be as sharp as this. We'll make it to fade out. Okay, so that's what we're going to do, make it to fade out. It's not going to be as sharp as this. Now this is basically what we are trying to achieve with this over here. Let's style it out and maybe you'll better understand what should happen. Okay, so over here, just below the image, I want to have a new div that is going to be an overlay. And let's style this out. Give it a class name of absolute. I'm giving the class name of absolute, and I want it to be bottom 0. Let me explain what's going on as we are doing it. So currently I have a div like this, and I gave it a class name of absolute, which means it's going to be in here sitting down like this. And then definitely it's going to have a height and a width of full, so it will be like this. But as soon as you give it bottom 0, it will go from the top all the way to the bottom. Remember when I explained this, if you were to say something like bottom 0, right 0, it will be over here. If you say top 0, right 0, it will be somewhere here. If you say left 0, bottom 0, it will be somewhere here. Do you understand? Top 0 here, right 0 here, bottom 0 here, left 0 here. Do you understand? Now, if you have to say MX auto, it will come to the center like this. That's how position absolute works. Note, it doesn't only come here. It can also move out of the screen depending on the value that you give the left, top, right, or bottom. It shouldn't only be top 0, bottom 0. You can say bottom 3. Remember that bottom 0 is going to bring it over here. If you say bottom 3, it will bring it to the top. If you say bottom -3, it will bring it like this. If you say bottom -5, it will bring it down. If you say bottom -26, it will bring it down like this. Do you understand? So I'm just trying to show you how position absolute actually works. So we're trying to achieve something that's going to look almost identical to this. Let's get back to the code. We are giving it bottom 0, left 0. which means we actually want it to be somewhere here. Left 0, bottom 0 means it should be somewhere here. Good. And after you have done that, we want the width to be full, which means the width is going to cover like this full. Remember that the height initially will be like this, but instead we want the height to be, instead of full, we want it to be 10 rem. So giving it a height of 10 rem will then make the height to look something like this. Do you get what's going on? And after we've done that, we then want to go ahead and give this a background gradient to top. And we're going to say, hey, start the color from, and let me put down the color here, hash 0b0, 0b0, then a20 to transparent, and then you say rounded bxl, and then you save this. So when you have done that, let's check out how it's looking over here. Good, guys, can you see that? So currently Xcali does not have the feature to actually blur things out. I don't really think they do. Had it been they had the feature, I would have showed you how it will look. Let me see if there is a gradient over here. I can't really find a gradient over here, but if I could find a gradient, I'll show you what it's going to do. But you get the point that this is exactly what we are trying to do, guys. So now that we have done that, we can now come over here to this div, give this div a class name of absolute, and then we want the bottom to be 0. So what we're trying to do now is this. Let me show you in Xcali. So where is the text? Those two texts. We give it a position of absolute, which means it will come in here. We'll give it bottom 0, which means it will come in here, and then we'll give it, it's going to be like this, but then we'll give it padding 3, which means we need some breathing space at the left, top, right, and bottom, which means it will come in somewhere here. And then we'll say, hey, we need a space in there so that this can go to the top, and there will be some breathing space between the two texts. So that's what we're trying to achieve right now. Let's get back to our code and do that. So bottom 0, P3, space Y3, and then rounded bottom should be XL. Please, over here I did rounded BXL. It means rounded bottom should be XL. Same thing as this one here. So please go ahead, save this code, and let's see what we have. So I'm going to get back here, and guys, can you see it's now in here? Good. So hopefully you're following along. Let's go ahead and style this one. I believe I've styled this in the past, and I don't really want to do that again. So I'm just going to copy the style that I initially gave it and just put it over here. Save, and let's see what we have. All right, that's what I wanted. And also for the H1, let's style it out. Text 1XL, font bold, and is the 1XL too small? Well, let's just give it a drop shadow. I'm going to say drop dash shadow dash LG, and yeah, that should be it. This div over here has a flex, item center, gap 4, semi bold, and it has an image. I don't really need that image in there, so please get rid of that image. And we have by Destiny Franks and also a read time. So just go ahead and change this font semi-bold to font light and save your code. I don't want the fonts to be that thick. So now we see something like this. The article title seems like it's too small for me, so I'm just going to make it to be 2. And hopefully that should work better for me. Save your code. And let's see what we currently have. Good. A little bit bigger than what it normally should be. But before we continue, let's go ahead and put this in grids so that you see how it will work. So I'm just going to take this div over here, the overall div that's holding everything, and put it down in 4 places like that. And then the main div, which is this one that has the grid, should have a grid cos of 2. So when you save this, get back here, we should now see something like, whoops, this doesn't look good. So what's the problem? Let's see what's happening. I'm going to collapse all these other things that we have over here. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4. This has grid cos. My bad. That was a mistake. It should be grid cos 2. Hopefully you saw that before me. So when we get back here, can you see how it's looking? All you just need to do is give it a gap of 3 or maybe gap of 4, depending on what you want. And Boom, there you go. You could even bump up the gap a little bit, maybe say gap 5. Save your code. There you go. So guys, can you see how this is starting to look? Looks pretty cool, right? I think this actually looks really good. For real. Yeah, it's looking good. It's looking like exactly what I wanted. All right, I'm happy with what we have. Let's move over to the next section.